Part 95. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 949. Sutinyu signed a contract with the male player under the witness of the panel system and learned the latter's game nickname. There is no Poland in my heart. Tisk tisk. This game nickname, this big brother, is a bit interesting. After the contract was completed, Sutinyu ordered, "Go and tell other old players that when they make transactions, they must trade at this price. A piece of bread is 100 game coins, and a bottle of mineral water is 50 game coins. You can't change the price, otherwise it won't be beneficial to everyone." Ah! Why is this? Brother Pineapple looked stunned. He didn't expect Sutinyu to ask him to notify other veteran players. Just go ahead and do it. If anyone asks why, just tell them that if you want everyone to earn game currency safely, then just do as I say, Sutinyu said in a daze. Brother Pineapple still didn't quite understand, but he didn't ask any more questions. "I understand, I'll go right away." Sutinyu continued, "By the way, you can also help me promote it. I can sell food here." Okay, Brother Pineapple agreed. He was very motivated for 3 days of free food. Also, bring a big loudspeaker so you can call people. Sutinyu pondered for 2 seconds and added, "If someone asks me who I am, just tell them my name is he. Huh? Brother Pineapple was immediately confused. What the hell? However, seeing Sutinyu looking confident and strategizing, Brother Pineapple didn't do what he thought. After Brother Pineapple left, he took the loudspeaker and followed Sutinyu's instructions. He slightly modified Sutinyu's original words and recorded them into the loudspeaker. Then he held the loudspeaker and started walking around while playing. Soon, the sound from the loudspeaker began to spread throughout the campus. "Dear players who are buying and selling food, the market price of this internal campus transaction is 100 game coins for a piece of bread and 50 game coins for a bottle of mineral water. This price is the optimal price set by the sponsor and the players and cannot be changed. And please all old players not to change prices at will, so as not to affect the market order within the campus, otherwise, it will not be beneficial to everyone. Earn money together and enjoy blessings together. We were a family that loved each other 2,800 years ago." The sound played in the loudspeaker was transmitted to 10, and even the veteran players on the other side of several buildings could hear it. "What does this mean? Is this an order for us? Who does he think he is?" Haha, a man who had just changed from a newbie to an experienced player heard the words broadcast in front of the loudspeaker, and his expression became very disdainful. But before he finished speaking, he was immediately slapped on the forehead by the old man next to him. "What nonsense are you talking about? Shut up." "Brother, why did you hit me?" The man who was still looking proud suddenly felt aggrieved. "Step aside and focus on selling your food. Do you know who the player on the loudspeaker is? How dare you shout here?" The man was a little dissatisfied, but also curious. Does he know who he is? Ignorant fool! The man's eldest brother was speechless and directly grabbed the man's ear. "Hurry up and sell food, there are so many people waiting." I know. Brother, I know. Stop dragging me. It hurts, brother, it hurts. This is just a small episode. All the veteran players who heard the horn sound were confused at first, but then their expressions changed when they heard the man's game nickname clearly. The old players who originally intended to set the price higher gave up their minds and adjusted the price back to 100 game coins for a piece of bread and 50 game coins for a bottle of mineral water. The inner drama of veteran players. Forget it, you can make a lot of money at this price anyway, just think of it as selling a face to that person. Sutinyu pulled out a certain man's tiger skin, and sure enough, a price chaos in the campus market that was about to become a storm was eliminated. Even if there are still a few dissatisfied old players, if they raise the price, then other new players are not really fools and will definitely go to other players with lower prices to buy food. And those who think about lowering prices to seize the market are even more stupid. Because there is a huge base of new players there, demand exceeds supply. Those old players who consistently maintained market prices did not panic at all. Even if they could sell less food now, they would still be able to sell all the food on hand in more than 2 days. At this time, if you lower the price and sell it, it will be a loss. Brother Pineapple ran all over the campus conscientiously and carried out the things Sotingyu ordered smoothly. But when Brother Pineapple came back, he found that Sotingyu seemed to be in some trouble. The proctor appeared. This is unexpected. But if you think about it carefully, it makes sense. The invigilator is responsible for maintaining the order of the examination room. Although the second subject examination has not yet started, the players have made such a big noise in the school. The invigilator is naturally not blind and deaf, and must have known about this. Farce. Originally, the invigilators, who were comfortably in the office with the air conditioner blowing on, continued to watch through the surveillance screen the miserable situation of all the players who were hungry because there was no food. There may even be players who take risks and enter the dining hall, and what happens next will be even more interesting. In fact, there are indeed some players who really couldn't stand the temptation and walked into the canteen. But the invigilators were not very happy. Because, compared to the estimated number of people, the few players who entered the dining hall can be said to be negligible. So, where does the problem occur? The invigilators, who controlled all surveillance on campus, soon found out the reason. When they looked through the surveillance screen and saw the actions of the players inside, they were all stunned. Can you still play like this? They had thought about the new players taking risks because they had no food to eat. I also thought that because I don't want to die, sooner or later conflicts will break out between new players and veteran players. Although the veteran players have a variety of game props and have relatively rich gaming experience, in terms of number of players, they are completely overwhelmed by the new players. If veteran players are careless for a moment, they may capsize in the gutter and be succeeded by new players. According to the results predicted by the proctors, in the end, an irreconcilable conflict will break out between the new players and the experienced players. But now, a good campus has turned into a vegetable market. The veteran players took out their own inventory and sold it to the new players one by one, and the new players also lined up obediently in order to buy food early. If anyone dares to jump in line or cause trouble, all players will definitely be hostile. At this time, observing order has become the default idea of most players. This. What should we do now? Just let them continue like this. Find the culprit, and then, kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. An invigilator said the solution. All the proctors reached a consensus and began to call up the school's surveillance footage to find the culprit. Within minutes, the culprit was found. It's her again. When all the invigilators saw Sotingyu's appearance clearly, one of the invigilators wearing a clown hood suddenly stood up, his voice became a bit sharp, and mixed with some unspeakable words. Frustrated and angry. He was the examinee who invigilated the exam you took that morning. Because the clown man was so excited, the other proctors also immediately thought that the clown man should know Sotingyu. As for how they met, it's easy to guess. Most probably it was because of the Chinese test this morning. Yes, she was one of the candidates I proctored for the exam this morning. The clown man gritted his teeth. What's going on with this guy? This guy is simply. Look at the paper, he answered. The clown man couldn't say anything, so he had to upload the Chinese language test paper that Sotingyu answered in the morning to each invigilator's computer. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. 1 minute later. Holy shit. Holy shit. Awesome. Can this still happen? There were sounds of surprise. Are you sure this is that candidate's answer sheet? I'm sure so. This candidate is a bit abnormal. Remember to pay special attention to her these 2 days, but let's deal with the current matters first. An invigilator wearing a rabbit hood said, "Since she is the candidate you proctored this morning, it is up to you to step forward." "Okay, I'll go right away." The clown man seemed to have finally caught Sotingu's fault. He was already gearing up and couldn't wait to punish Sotingu severely. By the time the clown man arrived, Sotingu had already sold 1/3 of the bread and mineral water on hand. In fact, the sales were quite good at first, and later other old players nearby also started selling. Those foreign players, because they couldn't wait for 20 minutes, all ran to other old players. Even if the number of Chinese players is the largest, it is impossible for every Chinese player to come to Sotingu to buy food. Later, seeing that no Chinese players came to buy it, Sotingu cancelled this restriction and allowed foreign players to buy it, but the number of people buying it was not much lower than at the beginning. When Sotingu saw the clown man appear, he was the first to say hello. "Hey, Mr. Invigilator, why are you here?" "Haha, don't you know why I came here?" the clown man said sarcastically. "Huh? What should I know?" Sotingu was very innocent. He appeared out of nowhere and asked himself, and he didn't make it clear what he wanted the little fairy to say. The clown man pointed to the food and water on Sotingu's table. "What are you doing now? Tell me." After the clown man appeared, the other players tried to avoid him, but Sotingu remained calm. "But she doesn't care, but the other players don't." Suddenly, Sotingu's business went cold. Seeing this, Sotingu sighed slightly and shrugged. "I am now having a friendly study exchange with all my classmates. I have finished the first exam, so I am not allowed to share my experiences." "Is it possible that sharing experiences after the exam violates the school's rules and regulations?" Sotingu asked rhetorically. The clown man did not expect for a moment that Sotingu would have the nerve to ask this, and was immediately stopped by the question. When the clown man wanted to bring out the rules of the examination room, he saw Sotingu slowly take out a thick brochure. "Well, the surface of the booklet also says, School Survival Guide for So-and-so School." Sotingu opened the thick book, and then signaled to the clown man, "Mr. Invigilator, there is no school rules and regulations that clearly states that friendly exchanges between students are not allowed within the school. It didn't say that buying and selling was not allowed, and it even said that mutual help and mutual benefit were not allowed. In addition, the rules of the examination room should only be enforced during the examination time, right? Are you taking the examination now?" "No, it is the break time and the free time." "This is what you said," Sotingu said innocently. His expression, for some reason, became more and more irritating. The clown man's chest heaved with anger, but damn, there was nothing he could do against Sotingu. Grass. Who would bring a school guide as thick as a brick? The clown man couldn't tell at this time. Did Sotingu do it on the spur of the moment? Or was it planned in advance? "If nothing happens, Mr. Invigilator, we will continue to help each other and benefit each other." Sotingu placed the booklet on the edge of the table, like a needle that fixes the sea. With it around, Sotingu didn't panic at all. Clown man gritted his teeth. "The free time will end soon. No noise is allowed in the school during lunch break." Sotingu chuckled. "Don't worry, Mr. Invigilator, we are all good students who respect teachers and love to learn. We will definitely abide by the school's rules and regulations. When we have lunch break, we will go back to the dormitory to rest. Don't worry." The clown man's heart is beeping. Sotingu waved her little paw in advance. "Go slowly, I won't see you off. Just wait for me." The clown man came with an angry face, but then disappeared with a depressed stomach. The melon eaters watching were slightly surprised. "Holy shit. Wild." He actually responded to the invigilator. "Boss, what you told us has been done." Brother Pineapple dared to come over after seeing the invigilator leaving. "Very good." Sotingu was very happy and handed Brother Pineapple 6 pieces of bread and 3 bottles of mineral water. Brother Pineapple took the bread and couldn't wait to take it apart and eat it, eating it in 3 or 2 bites. Brother Pineapple took the rest back into his inventory. "Boss, let me go and solicit customers for you." Brother Pineapple felt the benefits and wanted to hug Sotingu's lap, so he took the initiative to find something to do. Sotingu raised his eyebrows slightly. "Okay, then you go." "Okay." Time flew by. Lunch break time is coming. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 950. Copy time, 12:55. There's still a 5-minute lunch break. The first vigorous campus marketing event ended. Sotingu looked at the pile of contracts marked on the panel and couldn't help but sigh, it's another fruitful day. After Sotingu put away his small stall, he went to the designated dormitory. What a coincidence, the dormitory number displayed on the panel turned out to be Building B404. What a coincidence. It's just time to visit an old friend. After being slightly stunned, Sotingu smiled. At this time, a certain Apiao who was staying in dormitory 404 of Building B suddenly sneezed. The girl with the hair raised her hand and rubbed her nose, and then her eyes under her hair looked out the door again, her eyes full of expectation. Her left hand was clenched into a small fist. Soon, someone will be here soon. After suffering a setback at the hands of Sotingu, the girl was isolated for a period of time. Until the next player came, by chance, he was a new player, so he didn't need to take him seriously. He just suddenly appeared in front of the former player and frightened him to death. This sudden sense of accomplishment comforted the slightly injured little heart of the girl. After that, many more players came one after another. Some players are relatively strong, and even if the distributed girls cannot beat them, they can still escape calmly. If weaker players come to the door, they can only let the distributed girls tease and play with them. Just like that, bit by bit, the confidence that the girl had lost in the hands of a certain female devil came back again. Nowadays, radiant girls are very hopeful. The next player can quickly come to the 404 dormitory. As a host, it will definitely entertain its guests. Wow, haha. Woo-oh. Thinking about it, the girl couldn't help laughing. That voice was more or less panicky. Copy time, 12:58. Building B, 4th floor. When Sotingu came up, it was still the same as before. He clearly saw many players coming up downstairs, but when he came up, it was as if he had entered a different space and saw no one else. "Hello, hello." Suddenly, a timid girl came from behind Sotingu. Sotingu turned around, and a shy girl appeared in front of her. There was a hint of excitement in her eyes as she looked at him. Sotingu blinked his big eyes curiously and asked, "Do you know me?" The girl nodded quickly, "I am also a player in China. I just bought a piece of bread and a bottle of mineral water from you." "Oh, I remembered. It's you." Sotingu suddenly seemed to have a sudden realization. A smile appeared on his face and he became very enthusiastic. He even reached out and took the girl's hands, as if like good sisters I haven't seen for a long time. "This is a customer." "Hello, hello. Nice to meet you again." But in fact, Sotingu didn't even know the girl's name. Now that she was approaching, he started to check the girl's game nickname. Milk Cat. There were so many players coming to Sotingu to buy food, how could she remember them clearly? However, the contents of the transaction were recorded on the panel. "Thank you for selling me food." Although the girl was a little uncomfortable with Sotingu's sudden enthusiasm, when she thought that Sotingu in front of her was an old player and had so much food stored in her body, she decided to fight with her. The relationship is always right. "Angel Su, can I call you Susu?" The girl also saw Sotingu's game nickname and asked. Sotingu, "Okay. My game nickname is Milk Cat. You can just call me Mau Mau. I got this game nickname because I have a cat at home," the cat girl explained shyly. Okay, okay, Mao Mao Sutingyu agreed readily. Susu, have you also been assigned to dormitory 404? Girl Mao Mao pointed to the door of dormitory 404 next to her. Sutingyu nodded, yeah, yes, it's right here. I came here when I took the Chinese language test in the morning. A trace of surprise flashed in the cat girl's eyes. You've been here before, so, what's going on inside? There won't be those ghostly NPCs, right? Hearing this, Sutingyu looked at the Mao Mao girl again and said, you are a new player, so you adapt very quickly. You know those are NPCs. I learned some news about the game from several old players, but Susu, you must know more than me. There was a trace of envy in the eyes of the cat girl. Stop talking, let's go in first. Sutingyu retracted her hand and changed the subject. Hey! Should we wait for others? In such a big dormitory, we shouldn't be the only two living here, right? The cat girl hesitated. It's one thing to know NPCs, but it's another thing not to be afraid of them. Sutingyu looked at the dungeon time displayed on the panel. There was only 1 minute left before lunch break, and he couldn't wait any longer. Lunch break is coming soon, let's go in first. Good students must abide by school rules and regulations. Ah, okay then. Seeing that there was no way to persuade Sutingyu, the cat girl had no choice but to compromise. Then, let's go in together. Fearing that Sutingyu would leave her behind, the cat girl quickly added. But before she finished speaking, Sutingyu raised her foot and kicked open the door of 404's dormitory. With a sound of bang, the dormitory door fell down for the second time. The cat girl opened her mouth slightly in surprise. She stretched out her hand tremblingly and pointed at the dormitory door on the ground. Is this door so old? Then she kicked it open. Sutingyu nodded in agreement, probably so. With this interruption, the nervousness in Mao Mao girl's heart disappeared, and she stepped into the dormitory with her legs. But the moment the two of them came in, a ball of black hair suddenly fell from the sky, and underneath the hair was a face, grinning at the two of them. AHH. Caught off guard, the cat girl was startled and backed away. Hey, we meet again. Sutingyu's eyes were full of surprise. The girl who had been showing off her teeth and claws just now saw Sutingyu. The whole soul became sluggish. The next second, it seemed as if he had seen something super scary, and his face instantly became frightened and panicked. With a swish, he immediately flew to the ceiling, and his whole soul was still trembling uncontrollably. The cat girl calmed down and was a little confused when she saw the series of reactions from the girl with the hair. She, what is going on? Why do you feel like you are afraid of us? Sutingyu pretended to be ignorant. I don't know either. Maybe she's scared because there are so many of us. The cat girl scratched her head. Is it like this? But I saw Apiao in another dormitory before. He was able to beat several players with just one Apiao without any fear. Sutingyu pondered for 2 seconds before giving the answer. Maybe we are lucky. The Apiao we met is relatively shy and doesn't dare to meet strangers, right? Ah, shy. Mao Mao looked confused. She still couldn't forget the moment she just entered the door. The girl with this hairy look had an arrogant face that wanted to scare the two of them. Is this a manifestation of shyness? No matter what, it's a good thing that we can live in peace with him. Why do we think so much? The more we think, the more we worry. Sutingyu said a few words of relief, and then walked to bed number 4. Yes, 2. The cat girl took advantage of Sutingyu to look at the bed and glanced at the ladder secretly from behind. There should be an old player like Angel Su here, right? Mao Mao looks innocent, but he is not a fool. No matter how shy Apiao is, it's impossible for her to be afraid of people, right? Unless that person is not simple. Thinking of this, the cat girl clenched her fist. She finally met a female veteran player who seemed to be easier to talk to. She had to build a good relationship and try to pass the level. Sutingyu called someone, Mao Mao, which bed do you want to choose to rest on? Ah, I'll just choose this one. The cat girl quickly glanced at it, and then pointed to the number 2 lower bunk next to Sutingyu. The loose girls hid on the ceiling inside, and the cat girls didn't dare to sleep on the inner bed or the top bunk bed. Sleeping next to Sutingyu felt somewhat safe. Moreover, it is more convenient to sleep on the lower bunk. Okay, then I'll choose this one. Sutingyu was interested in bed number 4. The dormitory no longer felt as old as when Sutingyu came here before. It's like knowing in advance that someone is moving in. All basic daily necessities are ready, even the bed is made. Sutingyu sat on the bed, feeling quite comfortable. But if the cat girl wasn't there, Sutingyu really wanted to pry open the bedboard and take a look. Are the 5 words underneath still there? Not long after the 2 came in, there were footsteps outside the door again. Several girls walked in with wary expressions. Sutingyu glanced at them and saw that there were about 10 people, but they were all white and black faces, and there were no yellow faces. Just enough, this dormitory can accommodate them all. How do you do? Hello, one of the girls stretched out her hand to say hello. Have you met anything? Ghosts or something? Have you met anything, ghosts or something? The cat girl said ah softly, and then pointed to the ceiling as she spoke, over there. Halfway through her words, there was no sound, because the cat girl discovered that the girl with the radiating hair had disappeared at some point. Sutingyu took over the conversation. No, everything is normal here. The new girls heard Sutingyu's voice and turned to look at her. However, there was no special reaction on his face, probably because he didn't recognize Sutingyu. The campus is so big and there are other canteens. Not all players have seen Sutingyu's drama before. Sutingyu took off her shoes, lay on the bed, and stretched. It's so comfortable. With that said, he took out an alarm clock from the storage ring and set the time. 13:50. After the other 10 girls arrived, they also began to assign their respective places to get up. Seeing that everyone was here, the female cat guarding the door reinstalled the dormitory door on the ground. Although it looked a little unstable, it was better than nothing. Maybe it was because of the difference in skin color. After the other 10 girls came in, except for the beginning, they didn't talk to the cat girl and Sutingyu. Instead, they separated into 2 small groups and whispered. From those chats, Sutingyu learned that among the 10 girls, 4 were old players and the remaining 6 were new players. Because we had just been assigned to the same dormitory, I thought there is strength in numbers, so we got together. After finding out this information, Sutingyu couldn't help but think of Kikai, Fatty and the others. I don't know where they are now. Sutingyu wasn't worried about Kikai and Guju. Their strength was enough to deal with most dangers. She was just more worried about Fatty, Sister Shanyu and Xiaozu. However, we are all old players. Even if we fail to clear this round of dungeons, there are still game coins that can be deducted without entering the punishment dungeon. After the 10 girls chatted for a while, they all returned to their beds and began to rest. After hearing no more useful news, Sutingyu closed his eyes and began to rest. Copy time, 13:50. Ling ring ring. As soon as the time came, Sutingyu's alarm clock rang. As soon as Sutingyu opened her eyes, there was a bunch of hair and a head stuck under the bedboard of the upper bunk bed. The head could also stick out its tongue, trying hard to scare her. While Sutingyu yawned, he took out the angel stone tablet, and while the girl was still making faces, she hit the girl on the head. A flash of white light flashed, and the girl was taken into the angel stone tablet. Help me entertain my new friends, Sutingyu muttered to the angel stone tablet, then put it back into the inventory. Other players in the dormitory were also woken up by the alarm clock. At this time, all player panels popped up. Sutingyu glanced and saw the location and time of the afternoon math test. The exam starts at 2 o'clock, with 10 minutes left. I don't know if they are in the same dormitory, so no player can be assigned to the same examination room and classroom. Time was running out, so all the players in the dormitory set off to their respective examination rooms and classrooms. Sutinyu followed the mathematics test information provided on the panel and came to the new examination room. This time it was a classroom on the first floor. After Sutinyu came in, he found his seat and sat down. Then he waited for the invigilator with peace of mind. One after another, other players from the same examination room and classroom also came in. However, when the exam preparation bell rang, Sutinyu found that there were still 5 empty seats in the classroom. Before Sutinyu could figure out the reason, a figure in a tuxedo came in outside the door. All the players looked over one after another. Based on the experience in the morning, this time, no one saw a rabbit head shouting. The invigilator was actually changed. The new Proctor Rabbit also has a perfect figure. Rabbit wears a tall black hat on his head and a brooch on the chest of his tuxedo. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 951. Gentleman Rabbit spoke politely. Before handing out the test papers, let me announce something. Some candidates overslept due to a nap and did not arrive at the examination room on time. They have now been disqualified from the examination. Overslept? Sutinyu frowned slightly. So, in those vacant seats, some players were eliminated because they were late. But in a dungeon, are there really players who are so arrogant that they oversleep? After Mr. Rabbit announced this little incident, he raised his hand gently, as if to make a signal. Now we will start distributing mathematics test papers. This test is also a 100-point system. The test time is from 2 to 6 p.m., all candidates are asked to work hard to pass the exam. Only candidates who pass the exam can continue to take the exam for the next subject. The test questions appear on the white paper on the desktops of all players. After Sutinyu received the test paper, he took a look at the questions. Topic 1, let all the students in dormitory 505, building H, believe that 1 + 1 = 2. Question 2, help the Hualala driver in the first canteen to carry 250 bottles of drinks to the canteen on the second floor, and ask the proprietress of the canteen to pay for the drinks. Question 3, count the number of mice in the experimental building. Candidates who have already received the math test paper, please work hard to answer the questions. Now, the math test officially begins. After the gentleman finished speaking, the rabbit disappeared. After the invigilator left, the candidates walked out of the examination room one after another and began this round of mathematics examination. Sutinyu is no exception. Let's go to dormitory 505 first. It seems to be relatively close to here. After deciding on the destination, Sutinyu set off immediately. After a while, when Sutinyu came to the open space of building H dormitory and was about to walk in, a voice suddenly came from his mind. No, it should have come from the inventory on the panel. Master, I'm back, ha 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 ha. Hearing such wolfish laughter, Sutinyu stopped, immediately opened his inventory, and clicked into the angel stone tablet. Sure enough, Sutinyu saw Hui who had woken up. Sutinyu's eyes flashed with joy. Big Hui, you wake up. Ahem, if Hui doesn't wake up, he will almost forget that he still has this little brother. Yes, master, have you missed me? The big ash floated directly out of the stone tablet, and at this moment, its whole body had undergone considerable changes. The soul body became a bit more solid, and the black hair was vaguely tinged with some gold threads, making it look even more majestic. The stone tablet can't restrain Hui anymore? A trace of doubt flashed in Sutinyu's eyes. Just now, Sutingyu clearly felt that De Hui could easily get out of the stone monument without much effort. Master, I have become stronger now. De Hui's voice was extremely arrogant, and seemed to have some hidden meaning. Sutingyu slowly narrowed his eyes. Originally, Sutingyu's method of subduing De Hui was a bit simple and crude. Now, De Hui feels that his strength has greatly increased, so he has to become angry and wants to betray his master? Sutingyu looked at the big gray in front of him that had begun to expand infinitely, and just shouted lightly, "Lucifer." De Hui heard this and was a little confused. Lucifer? What is this? Just when De Hui was confused, suddenly, an invisible force came towards him. Caught off guard, it was pressed directly to the ground. Ah! What is going on? De Hui was shocked. I'm not a thing. A faint voice sounded in the ears of Sutingyu and De Hui. There was no surprise on Sutingyu's face, but this scared De Hui stupidly. Master, Master, what's going on? Sutingyu blinked his big eyes and said in a normal tone, "Oh, it's not a big deal. It's just that while you were sleeping, I made a contract with a god, a very powerful one, whatever. Destroying a world shouldn't be a problem." Hearing this, De Hui was completely dumbfounded. Now, even without huge force to hold it down, his feet felt weak and he wanted to kneel down. Master, I was wrong. Please spare me. I don't dare to do it anymore. After the shock, De Hui relented and kept kowtowing to Sutingyu, his eyes filled with tears. Damn it! Originally, I thought that by improving my strength, I could get rid of this demon master. Who knows, woo woo woo. Tell me, what did you want to do when you ran out? Sutingyu crossed her arms over her chest. She didn't want to handle De Hui lightly now, so she just let De Hui go. If it is so unbehaved, it must be given a heavy education, otherwise it will lose its memory. You just improved your strength and dared to let it float? Ha ha ha. I just want the master to see my new image, and then, don't I want to help the master? See if the master needs my help, De Hui quickly defended. Master. I promise. I will be obedient from now on. Oh, so you didn't intend to be obedient just now? You used to do one thing on the surface and think of another in your heart, Sutingyu seemed to suddenly realize. These words really scared De Hui. De Hui quickly shook his head and tailed, nothing. I have always been loyal to the master. The first time I saw the master, I knew that you, master, are the people I will follow in the future. De Hui, I feel extremely honored and proud to be your master's younger brother. These words are true and come from the bottom of my heart. Sutingyu stared at it for a few seconds, then smiled, okay, I believe what you said is true for the time being. Hearing this, De Hui's face showed joy. But the next second, Sutingyu continued to speak, then you first make a master-servant contract. You are the servant and I am the master. Now that you have improved your strength, you should know how to make a contract, right? As the medium of the contract, choose the angel stone tablet. If the stone tablet is broken, then you have to cool down with it. Ah! This is not good, the stone tablet is so fragile, and don't you often hit people with it? If it's broken, doesn't it also need to be left alone? Sutingyu immediately suppressed the smile on his face, so, are you willing? I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it. Saying that, without waiting for De Hui to agree, he started counting the seconds. 10, 9, 8. Ah, no, master, this, can we discuss this again? De Hui had a bitter look on his face and wanted to struggle a little more. Sutingyu ignored it and the countdown suddenly jumped 4, 3, 2. Where is 567? De Hui was shocked. Seeing that he was about to reach 1, the huge force pressing on his body seemed to be starting to accumulate strength, and it was going to crush him completely. Dewey shouted hurriedly, "I make a contract. I will make a contract now." In the end, Sotingyu didn't shout out the one. Sotingyu took out the angel stone tablet with a smile and placed it in front of Dewey. "Let's get started." After Dewey regained his freedom, he started the master-servant contract dejectedly. Sotingyu looked at Dewey's pitiful look and didn't feel any sympathy at all. Sotingyu thought of the contract, which was the reminder Lucifer had just given her. All this time, Dewey has only been in a semi-conquered state, and the medium is the angel stone tablet. Once Dewey's own strength is too strong and the stone tablet cannot suppress it, Dewey can easily get rid of his restraints. But now that we have a contract, it is much simpler. Dewey surrendered directly to Sotingyu. The angel stone tablet was just a medium, and the contract was a master-servant contract. Dewey had no room for resistance at all. During the contract, a circle of light with strange patterns was generated under Dewey's feet and Sotingyu's feet at the same time, and Sotingyu's panel also reacted. Please note. The player Angel Su is making a contract with the Sirius demon. Once the contract comes into effect, it will be irreversible. Sotingyu glanced at it. It turns out that Big Gray is called Tianlang Yaoa. It sounds quite impressive. The moment the contract ended, a wolf-shaped totem appeared on the surface of the angel steel as the medium, representing the Big Ash. Sotingyu also vaguely felt as if there was something extra, as if just a thought of hers could make Dewey use it for her. With the contract in hand, Dewey didn't dare to mess around anymore. "Let's go, Dewey." Sotingyu waved to the dejected Dewey with a cheerful voice. "Yes, master." After dealing with Dewey's matter, Sotingyu took Dewey into the H dormitory building. The moment Sotingyu walked in, the still space quietly returned to normal. Huh? What was I going to do just now? Oh, by the way, I have to answer the question. The recovered players around them did not notice anything strange and continued to do their own things. Sotingyu entered the building and went all the way to the 5th floor. Dewey, you go and lead the charge. Sotingyu came to the door of dormitory 505 and turned to look at Dewey. "No problem, master." After the decadent time of climbing 5 flights of stairs, the extremely adaptable Big Hui had adjusted his condition and responded enthusiastically. "Anyway, if you can no longer resist now, just lie down and accept it." Dewey wanted to show off his strength in front of Sotingyu, so he directly gathered his strength and smashed open the door of the dormitory with one claw. Bang bang bang. The dormitory door was as fragile as a piece of paper, and within a few seconds, it was scratched beyond recognition by Big Hui. Big Hui took the lead and floated in first. Sotingyu followed closely. Unexpectedly. "Holy shit, who are you? Damn it! You are conducting a sneak attack. Wow wow wow, master, help me." As soon as Sotingyu stepped into the dormitory with one foot, she heard Dewey's screams. Sotingyu blinked and the meteor rod appeared in his hand. When she came in completely, she saw clearly what was going on inside. "I saw 8 male high school students surrounding a Big Gray one. The latter was trembling and hugging himself. When he saw Sotingyu, he immediately called for help. "Master, help me. They have many ghosts and bully ghosts." Sotingyu was speechless for a moment. "Didn't you say that you have improved your strength? What are the ghosts afraid of? Just go ahead. Fight them in a group and beat him." Dewey was dumbfounded. "Ah. Are you sure this isn't a group of them beating him?" Sotingyu felt that what he said was right. "You alone are beating 8 of them in a group. Isn't this normal?" Dewey stammered, "Master, isn't that your specialty? I won't take it away, right?" "Oh, really? I forgot." Sotingyu blinked his big eyes and sounded innocent. "Are you the owner of this ugly thing? Are you in the same group with him, At this time, a male high school student spoke. Sutingyu glanced at Dawei, and finally nodded reluctantly, "Yes, he is my little brother." Dawei got into the floor while they were not paying attention, and then floated to Sutingyu smoothly. "Master, beat them all up quickly and let them see how powerful you are," Dawei encouraged. Sutingyu immediately disagreed, "What's the point of fighting and killing? We need to get along well." When Dawei heard this, he wondered if there was something wrong with his ears. "My master actually said he wanted to be friends. The sun is rising in the west." Sutingyu turned to look at the 8 male high school students with a smile on her face. "Excuse me, I just have a question that I can't figure out, so I wanted to ask some of you smart top students for advice." The male high school students became interested. "Oh, really? Then tell me what it is." Sutingyu looked expectant. 1 + 1 = 2, right? Here comes another fool. Ouch, it turns out there is a fool. Ouch. Unexpectedly, after asking this question, the 8 male high school students all held their bellies and laughed. Sutingyu was completely confused. 1 + 1 = 2, is there a problem? That's no problem. Wait for it. Ha ha ha. Another fool. Do you know it is equal to 1? 1 drop of water plus 1 drop of water is equal to 1 drop of water. You don't even know this, are you stupid? No, it should be equal to 345,678. It's possible. 1 man plus 1 woman, he, after that, it will be 345,678. The male high school students laughed at Sutingyu crazily and looked at Sutingyu with eyes full of contempt. Forehead. Sutingyu held his forehead. She should know how such a simple question could be given to her. Even if you teach a little kid who doesn't understand anything, it's easier than this to understand 1 + 1 = 2, right? Brothers. There is a big idiot here. Let's bully her together. Big idiot. Big idiot. Ha 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 ha. Relying on the overwhelming power of the ghosts, the male high school students did not show any restraint and went crazy to seek death. Sutingyu grinned at his teeth and took out the angel stone tablet with his backhand. Who has more ghosts than anyone else, right? He. What the little fairy is not afraid of the most is bullying the minority with more. Give them all out. As soon as he finished speaking, the 7 original residents of Angel Apartment, plus the 6 newly recruited younger brothers, and Dawei, a total of 14, all appeared. For a moment, the dormitory seemed a little small. The laughter of the high school boys suddenly stopped, they couldn't laugh anymore. Wait a minute, we are all civilized people and have something to say, a high school student tried to reason. But Sutingyu didn't want to be reasonable now, and waved his hand, come on. Fight in a group. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 952. No problem, Master promises to complete the task. Relying on the many helpers on his side, Dawei stood up again, with a fierce look on his face. Let's go. Beat them up in a group. Soon, a chaotic fight began. Sutingyu found a bed and sat down to watch the show. Sutingyu thought for a moment, waved his hand, and released 7 small broken flowers from the inventory. These 7 small broken flowers are different from the previous small broken flowers, because these 7 flowers were fought among hundreds of flower kings. They fought and devoured each other, just like raising poisonous insects, and raised the 7 most powerful small residual flowers among hundreds. Both in terms of strength and growth rate, it is far superior to any ordinary small broken flower. You guys should go over and help them, just interfere on the sidelines, Sutingyu said. After hearing the order, the 7 broken flowers immediately sauntered over obediently and shuttled around the edges and corners. From time to time, some vines would grow out, tripping or whipping the 8 male high school students, creating chaos for Big Gray and the others. In this way, in this kind of group fight without martial ethics, the male high school students gradually became somewhat powerless. You have the ability. Let's challenge each other. That's right. What's the point of fighting in a group? Let's fight one-on-one. You are just a bunch of villains, despicable people. Seeing that the male high school students were still arrogant, De Hui immediately knew what to do without Sutingyu's reminder. Keep beating them. Beat them hard, De Hui began to taunt and output wildly, you want to challenge us, right? Okay, then you can challenge us. Good guy. This is simply changing the word from the original group fight to a one-on-one fight. In nature, there is no change at all. But De Hui is so shameless and speaks with righteousness. You little bastard. Damn. Despicable bastard. Ah. Stop fighting, stop fighting. It hurts, it hurts. Damn it. You don't know how to beat ghosts without slapping them in the face. It's so insulting to ghosts. After repairing 8 high school students from head to toe, inside and out, over and over again, they finally became honest. Sutingyu asked the question again, and the 8 Nan high school students could only answer honestly. Yes, yes, 1 + 1 = 2, equals 2. The 8 male high school students said the sentence with almost crying voices. After 8 male high school students recognized the answer 1 + 1 = 2 from the bottom of their hearts, Sutingyu also completed the first math question. Sutingyu sighed in his heart. It's really not easy. After taking the exam, I have to work part-time as a math teacher to teach incorrect mathematical ideas. After completing this test question, Sutingyu took all 8 male high school students into the Angel Stone tablet. Of course, this is all done on the premise that the latter is voluntary and very happy. Since then, Sutingyu's subordinates have grown stronger again. With a wave of his hand, the scene of tens of thousands of young people cheering and crowding around seemed to be one step closer. Just as Sutingyu was dreaming about this beautiful vision, when Ruojun, the internal manager of the Angel Stone tablet, said, Miss Su, I may want to remind you of something. Sutingyu looked at the shining angel steel and asked, what's the matter? Given that you continue to attract new residents, and there are not many homes left in the original angel apartments, it may be difficult to attract more residents in the future. When Sutingyu heard this, he was a little confused. Ah, there is another matter. She thought that after the original stone tablet was integrated with angel apartment, there would be no restrictions. Yes, when Ruojun said clearly. Sutingyu had to start paying attention to this problem. What should we do now? When Ruojun asked, do you want to stop here? Or do you want to continue to recruit other new residents? Sutingyu's face was still righteous. Mainly, I am not doing it for myself, I am just worried that you will be too lonely and cold, so I want to add more residents to make it lively and lively. When Ruojun, then you plan to continue to convince more residents? That's right, Sutingyu nodded. Since this is your plan, you should consider expanding the original apartment so that more residents can live in it. Expansion. Upon hearing this, Sutingyu's first reaction was that she should upgrade the stone tablet. If the stone monument is upgraded, more cute people should be able to live in it, right? But if this is the case, she needs to follow the upgrade process on the panel to collect upgrade materials. But this also takes time. And now, throughout the campus, there are still many cuties waiting for her to post. Time waits for no one. When Ruojun hesitated for a moment, but decided to remind Sutingyu, actually, you can try the way you did before. What did you do back then? Sutingyu blinked his big eyes. How did the angel stone tablet come from? I think you should be quite impressed. When Ruojun's face was a little unnatural, but it soon returned to normal. Oh, I remembered it. I was reminded like this. Sutingyu finally remembered. Before, it was only after the stone tablet was integrated with the angel apartment that it could accommodate all the residents of the angel apartment. And now, it should be the same reason. If Sutingyu wanted to bring in all the cute people on campus, he would at least have to find a space big enough for them to live in first. And now, isn't this space everywhere? However, this matter cannot be rushed yet. Because there are still exams. Sutingyu was not sure whether the expansion of the steel would affect the normal examination. Now we can only pass all the exams as soon as possible, and then consider the expansion of the stone monument. Thinking of this, Sutingyu called Dawei and the others back, then left dormitory building H and headed to the next answering location. The first dining hall, side entrance. A small truck stopped at the side door of the canteen. The back compartment of the small truck was half open, and you could see from the outside that there were a lot of drinks inside. When Sutingyu came here, she saw the truck driver moving boxes of drinks out. When the truck driver saw Sutingyu, he immediately waved, "Hurry, come here, where have you been? It's been so long. Quickly, move these to the canteen on the second floor." The truck driver pointed to the drinks that had just been brought out on the ground. Hearing this, Sutingyu raised his eyebrows slightly. "Role play?" I heard Sutingyu's clear voice reply, "Okay, okay." To be on the safe side, Sutingyu asked for the quantity of drinks and the price of each bottle. The canteen on the second floor needs 250 bottles. As for why a canteen in a school only purchases 250 bottles at a time, Sutingyu doesn't know. Among them, there are 100 bottles, and each bottle costs 1 yuan. There are 100 bottles left, and each bottle costs 0.5 yuan. Among the remaining drinks, there are 20 bottles, each bottle is charged 2 yuan, and the last 30 bottles are charged 1.5 yuan each. Sutingyu checked with the driver several times, making the latter impatient. Afterwards, Sutingyu clapped the angel tablet in his hand and called out the 8 high school students. "You guys, bring all these drinks up." Sutingyu looked for help openly. When the truck driver saw the 8 high school students, his eyes twitched slightly. When Sutingyu looked over again, his cold and indifferent expression returned. "Then let's move up there," Sutingyu chuckled. Then, Sutingyu followed the high school students and went up to the second floor of the cafeteria empty-handed. "Lady boss, the delivery is here." Sutingyu slapped her little hand on the counter of the canteen, which startled the proprietress who was obsessed with watching dramas. "What's your name? Delivery is so slow. You still have the nerve to scream." The proprietress came to her senses and began to curse. Sutingyu looked indifferent, since he wasn't the one scolding him anyway. "I didn't drive the truck myself. I didn't move this thing by myself. It has nothing to do with her. Lady boss, hurry up and inspect the goods, then pay the money so I can go back. Why are you urging me? Is there a death in your family? Are you in a hurry to leave?" The landlady looked impatient, and then started to pick through the drinks brought up, trying to find out what was wrong. But the landlady couldn't find anything wrong with it. "Hurry up and give me the money." Seeing this, Sutingyu made a gesture to the landlady asking for money. "Don't I know? It's not like I don't want to give it, so why bother?" The landlady grabbed a handful of banknotes that seemed to have been prepared in advance from the drawer and threw them on the counter. Go quickly, the proprietress began to chase people away. Sutingyu shook her head, "That won't work. I have to count whether I have enough money first." The landlady said with a smile on her face, "Then just count." Her voice was low, with a hint of chill, as if it contained some kind of threat. Sutingyu didn't seem to catch it, and directly asked the 8 high school students to count the money. "Here, you count, let me see if your math has improved. If the number is wrong, haha, you understand." The faces of the 8 male high school students suddenly became stiff, and then they hurriedly picked up the bills and started counting them seriously. After a while, the high school students counted the money. Boss, there is 25 yuan missing. Sutingyu hadn't said anything yet, but the boss who was eavesdropping suddenly slapped the table with an angry look on his face. Okay. You just want to extort my money. I've already given you the money, but you still talk about how little it is. Got the money? Roll on, roll on. Get out of here. Without any explanation, the landlady got angry. Sutingyu glanced at the time displayed on the panel. There were still many questions to answer and he couldn't waste time here. So, Sutingyu called out all the younger brothers simply and rudely. For a moment, the canteen was full of evil spirits. As the only normal person, Sutingyu stood in the middle, with no trace of timidity on her face. Instead, she calmly asked the boss lady, whose face changed drastically, boss, no matter you are a person or whatever you do, you're so kind, you know? Hurry up and make up the money, I'm in a hurry. The landlady's eyes glowed red and her breath became confused. You are robbing me. Hurry up, don't force me while I still want to reason with you. When Sutingyu said these words, the 8 high school students who understood it subconsciously took a step forward. However, De Hui responded positively to Sutingyu and floated forward to put pressure on the landlady. The face of the landlady changed several times, but in the end, she could only take out another 25 yuan from the drawer without any hesitation. Get out of here, don't stop me from doing business, the proprietress threw the money away. De Hui immediately took it and held it in front of Sutingyu very politely. That's right. After getting the money, Sutingyu was in a happy mood. Madam Boss, don't worry, we will meet again. Sutingyu left these words, and then left the canteen on the second floor with his little brother. After Sutingyu came down, he handed over all the money he had received to the truck driver. After the driver finished counting, he showed a surprised expression. Sutingyu blinked his big eyes. It's a lot of money, right? The driver's throat seemed to be blocked and he couldn't say anything. In the end, I could only say firmly, quite a few. Hearing this, Sutingyu smiled innocently. That's good, I'm leaving, I will miss you, hee. Truck driver, M. As he watched Sutingyu go further and further away, the truck driver was still puzzled. It's not right. When did the boss lady give me enough money? This, how do you want me to continue acting? But now, the truck driver had no choice but to let Sutingyu slip away. The other side. Come on, finally, it's done. Brother Pineapple ran out of a medical room like a 100-meter sprint. Standing under the sun again, he felt like he was alive again. After calming down, Pineapple took out his test paper and looked at the next question. Where to go next? Just as Brother Pineapple was thinking, several eyes locked on him behind him. Is it him? It seems like he should be the one to test it out. After the 3 men looked at each other, one of them walked quickly towards Brother Pineapple, then lowered his head and pretended to inadvertently bump into Brother Pineapple. Ouch! Brother Pineapple was knocked to the ground without paying attention. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the man secretly looked up Brother Pineapple's game nickname. After the query was successful, he left without looking back. When Brother Pineapple went back to look for the person, he found that the person had already gone away. There was no other way, Brother Pineapple had to get up by himself. Who is this person? He walks without eyes. Brother, are you okay? At this time, another person among the 3 pretended to come over to help Brother Pineapple, and took the opportunity to stick a small thing on Brother Pineapple's waistcoat. I'm fine. Seeing someone coming to help him, Brother Pineapple immediately forgot about the depression of being knocked down. Brother, be careful, I'm leaving first. The man patted Brother Pineapple, left these words, and left. Thank you, brother. Brother Pineapple said with emotion. There are still good people in this world. After this small episode, Brother Pineapple didn't notice anything strange and continued to his destination. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 953. Copy time, 1650. Sutingyu looked at the test paper in his hand. Now, only the last question was left to be completed. Underground Research Institute. Sutingyu was looking at the road map. Suddenly, he seemed to hear someone calling him. When he looked up, he saw Brother Pineapple waving to him in front. "Boss," Brother Pineapple smiled like a silly son of a landlord and trotted over. "What a coincidence, I meet you again." "Sutingyu, it's really a coincidence. The campus is so big and there are so many players, so it was a coincidence that we met them." Brother Pineapple said and remembered something. "By the way, boss, someone is looking for you." "Huh? Who is it?" Sutingyu blinked in confusion. "I don't know either. I heard that he was brought here by your friend after hearing your game nickname." Sutingyu was a little confused. Where is that person?" "He gave me this thing and said that I can contact him at any time." "I'll ask." As he said that, Brother Pineapple took out something similar to a mobile phone from the inventory and poked it a few times. Brother Pineapple's face was filled with joy. That friend is nearby and said he would be there soon. "Boss, can you wait a moment?" "Oh, okay then." Sutingyu was also curious about who that person was. Anyway, there was only the last question left, and there was still an hour left. The two waited for a few minutes. During this period, Sutingyu asked for the man's information. And this time, Sutingyu really asked a question. Brother Pineapple is such an idiot that he even forgot to check his game nickname. He only knew he was a man, so he met him by chance in the dungeon and helped him a little bit. Then, he also gave him 2 self-defense items for free. This sounds a bit weird. Giving props to strangers for no reason? Where did the great virtuous person come from? When Brother Pineapple saw a man appear, he immediately waved excitedly. "Brother! This way! This way!" The man heard the noise and walked towards the two of them. When he saw Sutingyu, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. "Miss Su, why is it you? Are you?" Sutingyu blinked her big eyes, feeling that the person in front of her was a bit familiar. "Are you that Zomyu?" Sutingyu remembered. "I have seen them in the copies of Children's Day and Dragon Boat Festival. He is Gucci's subordinate." Zomyu smiled and nodded. "Yes, Miss Su. I want to ask, where is I?" "Huh?" Sutingyu looked at Zomyu, then at Brother Pineapple, who was confused, and suddenly remembered that he had used Gucci's name to do things before. "Ahem, I don't know where he is." "What about at noon?" Sutingyu coughed lightly. "I just borrowed a little bit of Guju's reputation." Zomyu was stunned. "What? Borrow?" He really didn't expect that someone would dare to use Gucci's name. "Since we have met, Miss Su, please leave a communication method." Although he was a little regretful that he could not really find Gucci, Zomyu soon adjusted his expression and took out a mobile phone-like device from his inventory. "Small instruments." "Huh? What is this?" Sutingyu asked curiously. Zomyu had a surprised look on his face. "Miss Su, you don't know that there is a unified dungeon contact information among our elite members, right?" "Ah. Is there any?" Sutingyu was confused. Why didn't she know? "It is a prop in the mall, which is equivalent to the function of a mobile phone. However, it can communicate with the recorded contacts in the copy at any time," Zuomu explained. "Every elite member will be equipped with a communicator when joining the prison. The purchased game currency can be reimbursed by the special assistant." Sutingyu was very confused. Is there such a thing? Maybe, Chibubi had told her about the specific matters of punishment before, but at the beginning, his relationship with Gucci was not good, and he didn't want to stay in punishment, so he didn't listen carefully. It seemed that at that time, Chibubi sent a file to her, and it seemed that he clicked in to read it himself. Cough cough cough. Seeing Sotingyu's blank expression, Zomyu also guessed it, took out another new contact phone and handed it to Sotingyu. This is brand new, never used, you can use it after the copy is issued, find the special assistant to reimburse. Oh, Sotingyu took a look at how to use this thing. Props, Intelligent Contact Machine. Grade, Blue Mystery. Function, under normal circumstances, you can type and communicate with another contact machine that saves the number, but sometimes it will fail and you need to recharge it. Any light source can recharge it. Durability, 100%. Note, a magical mobile phone from another world is worth owning. Blue Mystery Grade. At least it costs 100,000 to 80,000 game coins, right? Tisk, Guju just gives one to every elite member? What a waste. Sotingyu expressed strong condemnation in her heart, but she quickly put the contact machine in her pocket. Since you have this thing, why can't you contact Gujuwa? Sotingyu asked. Zomyu sighed, I tried, but only some of the brothers can be contacted, and none of them, Master Ju, can be contacted. We are in the same dungeon, how come we can't contact each other? Sotingyu frowned. Zuomu said, this situation has been encountered by the copies that I have experienced before. It may be restricted by some special confinement device, or it may not exist in the same space, or it may be isolated by some force. Small world. Space. Is that so? Sotingyu thought for a moment and realized that it was not impossible, because if billions of players were all crowded into a campus scene, even the largest campus would not be able to accommodate them. Zuomu glanced at the copy time and said, I still have a few questions to complete, so I'm going to leave now. When the exam is over, I will contact you through the contact machine. The numbers of all elite members are also saved on it. If I can contact you, the number will turn green. If it will not be contacted, or it is not in the same copy, the number will turn gray. Sotingyu nodded, okay. After Zomyu left, Sotingyu was about to leave too, but belatedly realized that Brother Pineapple was still here. Eh? Brother Pineapple, are you okay? Brother Pineapple rubbed his hands with a look of surprise on his face. Boss, are you an organization or some kind of alliance? Before I entered the game, I learned about alliances or organizations that players spontaneously formed in the game. Ahem, it sounds pretty cool. Sotingyu looked at Brother Pineapple who was hesitant to speak. Do you want to join our alliance? Yes, Brother Pineapple nodded quickly. I don't know if there are any conditions or anything like that. I want to give it a try. Sotingyu looked at Brother Pineapple up and down and said, I'm not in charge of recruiting people, but I can make recommendations. Whether you can get in or not depends on you. Okay, Brother Pineapple said with joy on his face. Then you should work hard to clear this round of dungeons. Contact me after the dungeon is over. However, if you want to join our alliance, you must have some strength. Sotingyu patted Brother Pineapple on the shoulder and gave the latter an encouragement. Then turned around and walked away coolly. Hey. It must be unique. Sotingyu felt happy inside. Brother Pineapple, who stayed where he was, clenched his fists and cheered himself up like he was getting chicken blood. The big tree is right in front of you. By the time Brother Pineapple came to his senses, Sotingyu had already gone far away. Back mountain. Well, this is it. Sotingyu found the entrance to the underground research site, which was a two-story gray building leaning against a hill. Just a few steps after Sotingyu walked in, Lucifer inside the death blade suddenly said, Wait. Sotingyu paused and asked, Lucifer, what's wrong? After entering the dungeon for so long, Lucifer has always stayed silent unless he needed him. Why is he taking the initiative now? Here, There seems to be energy fluctuations similar to fragments of divine objects, Lucifer said. Fragments of divine objects. Sotingu's eyes widened in surprise. She has not forgotten that if the Death Blade wants to completely become a god-level weapon, it needs to fuse more divine fragments. Previously on Yin Yang Star, the entire continent's fragments of divine objects were fused with the Death Blade, but it was still not enough. I thought that I would have to wait until the next career dungeon to go to a world with a similar worldview to Yin Yang Star, before I could find the artifact fragments. But now, in the first dungeon of the open beta, we encountered fragments of divine objects. That's perfect. Doing the questions and finding the artifact fragments are both the same. Sotingu's face became slightly excited. I'm not sure yet whether they are fragments of divine objects. I just feel they are very similar. Don't have too much hope, Lucifer reminded. Okay. It's the best you can find. If you can't find it, just look for it later. Sotingu, who was initially numb when answering questions, finally gained a little bit of motivation. Question 30. Copy the data from the host computer of the Underground Research Institute, calculate the final result, and then hand it over to Dr. Lili. Let's not mention what Dr. Lili is. Where? Not only do you have to find this piece of information, you also have to calculate the final result yourself. If a century-old problem arises, who can really solve it? With a belly full of complaints, Sotingu groped around the house for a while and found the elevator leading to the Underground Research Institute. Sotingu took a look and saw that there were 5 underground floors, and he had to search them one by one. However, it stands to reason that important information should be kept more closely, right? After Sotingu entered the elevator, he directly chose the 5th underground floor. Sotingu's inventory popped up, a golden light flashed, and the shrunken Lucifer flew out and landed on Sotingu's shoulder. You won't go back to your old self when you come out, Sotingu turned around and asked. It stands to reason that after entering the dungeon, Lucifer's power will not be limited and he can return to his original appearance. Lucifer crossed his arms and swayed his calves. No. It's too short here. If it gets bigger, it will be uncomfortable to fly. Sotingu blinked, then you can walk. No, trouble. Lucifer's voice was calm, but he seemed to have a trace of confidence. Sotingu. It's over, it's over. A good God, he won't be led astray by her, right? Okay, then what else could Sotingu do but accept his fate? Anyway, this little guy is so light now and there is no burden on his shoulders. Ding dong. At this time, the elevator reached the 5th underground floor, and the elevator door opened with a clear sound. Just as Sotingu was about to walk out, he smelled a strange smell coming from outside the elevator. The unusual stench was salted fish that had been marinated for a long time and had not been processed, leaving it to stink in the air. Wow, what does it smell like? Sotingu covered her nose. Lucifer also frowned. He raised his hand and moved forward slightly. Some golden light turned into gold powder and fell on the bodies of one person and one god. Sotingu was surprised. Huh? The smell is gone. Go in, the energy similar to the fragments of the divine object is getting closer and closer, I feel like it, Lucifer said. As you command. Lord God. The bad smell disappeared and Sotingu walked out of the elevator. The environment inside the research institute is a bit dim, and the painted walls have peeled off a lot of powder, making them look a bit old and rough. There was also obvious dirt on the floor, which had not been cleaned for many years. Sotingu always felt a bit chilly as she walked in the empty corridor. Then, Sotingu simply let Dewey and the others out to have some fun. Master, do you have any orders? After coming out, Dewey was very attentive. Sotingu, you all, take a look at what's going on here. Find a host and form a group of 3 or 4. Pay attention to safety. Okay. Master, Dewey volunteered to help the neighbors arrange tasks. After a few seconds, they dispersed and got into the wall. Sutingyu continued walking along the corridor. Ahead, the several rooms they encountered were inspected by Big Hui and the others who had taken the first step. Master, I seem to have found it. When Sutingyu walked out of a room, he heard Dawai's voice. The big gray floated back with a swish, leading Sutingyu the way. Right ahead, Master. Sutingyu came to a public place that was obviously an experimental area. There were various instruments around it. However, they were all covered with dirt and seemed to be unusable. Master, is this a host? Dawai pointed at a large computer. Sutingyu looked at it calmly for a few times. There was no emotion or anger on his face, and he looked very enigmatic. Actually, Sutingyu doesn't know how to do this stuff, so why is he so happy? Why are you angry? Well, if Fatty was here, he would probably know. Even if you didn't know it before, you can always learn it now. Sutingyu turned to look at Dawai and the others. Who among you knows this thing? Let's see how to export the data inside. One of the 8 male high school students raised his hand. I can try. Okay. Sutingyu stepped aside and let the high school student float over. It seemed that after casually touching the surroundings of the host a few times, it pressed some switch. A hole popped up on the surface of the host, and inside it was installed something that looked like a chip, but the size of this thing was even smaller. She was slapped. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 954. Sutingyu had just taken the chip and was about to take a closer look when Dawai said again. Master, there seems to be something inside. Sutingyu turned around and saw Dawai digging inside with his claws and took out a notepad. Dawai handed the notepad to Sutingyu. Sutingyu used the panel to identify the 2 items. Props, the results of the Underground Research Institute, chip. Grade, rare. Function, there may be a little secret hidden inside, who knows. Whether the copy can be brought out, no. Durability, 70%, irreparable. Note, it looks like a chip, but it is actually just a chip. Props, Xiaosheng's diary. Grade, ordinary. Function, a somewhat worn notebook. If you can find a pen, it will become a notebook that can be used to record things. Whether the copy can be brought out, no. Durability, 65%, irreparable. Note, oh my god, how could anyone in the world do such a boring thing as writing a diary? The chip is correct, but this diary. Sutingyu glanced at the somewhat worn cover of the diary, handed the chip to Dawai to hold first, and started to read the diary himself. March 1st, sunny. Today is my first day at the institute. My supervisor helped me get this spot with great difficulty, so I must cherish it. March 5th, cloudy. I was so happy to see Dr. Li. He was as respected and knowledgeable as the rumors said, and he was also very kind and approachable. April 14th, light rain. I don't like gloomy rainy days. I feel wet all over and uncomfortable, even breathing is uncomfortable. April 15th, heavy rain. I got sick and had a fever. It happened very suddenly. When I realized what I was doing, I was already lying on the bed. I almost didn't have the strength to lift a pen now. If it weren't for my usual habits that supported me, this damn illness would have been. April 17th, overcast. The fever has finally subsided, but my sleep has been a little restless for the past 2 days. When I wake up in the morning, I can find itching all over my body, a bit like mosquito bites, but I can't find a mosquito bag. I can't stand it anymore and have to buy mosquito coils or toilet water. In the diary, most of it contained trivial matters of daily life, which were a bit boring and contained no useful information. Sutinyu simply turned to the back and took a look. June 22, cloudy. Research has made new progress. I am just an intern student and have not been exposed to deeper things. However, I vaguely heard that it is related to medical treatment, which is good. At least I have participated in a work that benefits mankind. July 5, light rain. My supervisor and Dr. Lily had a quarrel, and everyone in the institute knew about it. The supervisor suddenly wanted to give up research, but Dr. Lily disagreed. As one of the founders, why did the supervisor suddenly give up research? Many people I don't understand either, and neither do I. July 17, overcast. Mentor, something happened. How is this possible? Or died of sudden heart failure? It's impossible. Obviously the teacher's body has always been strong, and he went for a physical examination half a year ago. How could it be? July 29, foggy. I went to attend the funeral of my supervisor and came back to the institute. Suddenly I didn't want to stay here anymore. My supervisor didn't want to do research anymore. As his student, I should leave here. But before that, I told Dr. Lily say goodbye. After all, I have been here for so long and he takes good care of me. August 2, sunny. I was really careless. I just moved out of the research institute and I actually left something behind. Fortunately, I have lived here for a while and am familiar with everyone, so I can go back and pick up my things. August 4, overcast. I went to the research institute again, but I accidentally overheard the conversations of many former colleagues. The research seemed to have reached a bottleneck. The deduction failed thousands of times and there was no progress. Alas, I can only silently wish everything goes well. Sutinyu turned to the end and saw a small piece of paper with a line of text written on it that seemed to be an address, room 303, teacher's apartment, building A, Mofen University. Where is this address? Sutinyu was curious when the panel popped up. Congratulations to the player Angel Su for discovering the mission information, Lily's home room 303, teacher apartment building A, Mofen University. Is this where Dr. Lily lives? It's in the school. Sutinyu closed the diary. After finding the data chip, Sutinyu thought of the fragments of the divine artifact and asked Lucifer, where can the fragments of the divine artifact be found? Lucifer frowned, moving. What moved? Sutinyu blinked his big eyes with confusion on his face. That energy wave is no longer here, Lucifer said. Sutinyu was slightly shocked. Huh? You mean the fragments of the divine object? Can this thing escape? It may be that it is controlled by others, it may be that spiritual intelligence was born independently, or it may be other reasons. Forget it for now, let's finish answering the questions first. Sutinyu put the chip and diary into the inventory, then took the elevator and left the underground research institute. Following the address on the piece of paper, Sutinyu walked around half a circle and came to the teacher's accommodation area. Sutinyu couldn't see a single person in this area, which made her wonder if the address was wrong. Sutinyu knocked on the door of room 303. After waiting for a few minutes, there was finally movement inside. There was a click and the door opened. Inside the door, a somewhat pale middle-aged man's face was revealed. The eye sockets of his eyes were heavily sunken, and the eyeballs were protruding, as if they would fall out at any time. Classmate, who are you looking for? The man looked at Sutinyu. Sutinyu, I'm here to see Dr. Lily. Is the doctor here? I just, ahem. As he said that, the man coughed. Congratulations to player Angel Su for discovering the mission target, Lily. Hearing this, Sutinyu raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. Hello, doctor, I was entrusted by someone to deliver something to you. As he said that, Sutinyu put one hand in his pocket, seemingly holding something, but actually he took out the data chip from the inventory. When Lily saw the data chip, Washin's eyes trembled for a few times, and he took the data chip with trembling hands. This is the data from the research institute. Sutingyu gave a random reason, but Dr. Lily didn't dig into it and believed the former's words. Thank you, classmate. Dr. Lily looked excited, but when he thought of something, he sighed. An accident occurred in the institute, the research was interrupted, and all members of the institute were disbanded. Originally, I thought this information had been lost, but I didn't expect that it was still there. Thank you so much for helping me find it. Sutingyu said modestly, You're welcome, this is all a simple effort. Sutingyu chatted with Dr. Lily for a while, and the latter gradually looked tired. Lily seemed to be in poor health. Seeing this, Sutingyu wisely said goodbye. After coming out of the teacher's apartment, Sutingyu was a little distracted. Lucifer noticed Sutingyu's emotions, so he asked, What are you thinking about? Sutingyu shook his head slightly, It's nothing, just a little strange. Then, Sutingyu told Lucifer his thoughts. It stands to reason that Dr. Lily is a member of the Underground Research Institute and can personally retrieve the information at any time. Why is such a plot mission set up for the players? Also, why is the data chip hidden in the same place as Xiao Sheng's diary? Because according to the information in the diary, the owner of the diary, Xiao Sheng, is only here to study. He is not the main member responsible for the research and does not even have access to secrets. Sutingyu looked at the last question on the test paper again. It was now checked, indicating that it was completed. Seeing this, Sutingyu got rid of the doubts in his heart. Who cares? Anyway, the answer is finished. First hand in the test paper, and then walk around to see which dormitory building is suitable. 2 buildings, one for men and one for women. How nice. Maybe, he is too lazy to go, Lucifer said after thinking carefully. Sutingyu smiled helplessly, Do you think everyone is as homely as you? Are you too lazy to move? What is a home? Ever since he came into contact with human culture, Lucifer has become a curious baby whenever he meets someone he doesn't understand. He has only 2 guardians. One is doting him overtly and the other is doting him secretly. Lucifer is unrestrained and whenever he has any curiosity, he will do it. I won't hide it, and if I don't understand, I'll just ask. Sutingyu thought about it for a moment and came up with an explanation, It's probably just like you in Blue Star. You spend the whole day either watching TV shows or eating and drinking, never leaving the door without leaving the door. Oh, so this is a house? That's good, Lucifer affirmed. Tisk, tisk, what a sin. Sutingyu sighed after hearing this. What is sin? Lucifer asked again. So, Sutingyu started to explain again. When Sutingyu returned to the examination room and classroom again, this time, he didn't encounter any problems and came back smoothly. However, there was no one in the examination room, let alone the invigilator. So, Sutingyu looked at the examination room rules printed on one side of the test paper to see if there was anything on it that told her to submit the paper in advance or to find an invigilator. Sutingyu really found him. Sutingyu approached the podium, bent her fingers, and knocked on the podium a few times. Dong dong dong. After knocking, Sutingyu stood aside and waited. 10 seconds later, the figure of Gentleman Rabbit appeared on the podium. What do you want to see me for? The rabbit gentleman has an excellent temperament, like an upper-class aristocrat who stepped out of a medieval oil painting. Sutingyu gestured to the test paper in his hand. Mr. Invigilator, can I hand in the paper in advance? You want to hand in the paper in advance? Gentleman Rabbit's voice was filled with surprise. Wait, this player. There are so many players, and every one of them wishes they could have more time for the exam and answer as many questions as possible. And what is going on with this player? Could it be that she has already answered all the questions? Gentleman Rabbit took Sotingu's test paper and called out a red pen to mark the paper. But after a while, the red pen stopped. Seeing this, Gentleman Rabbit remembered what the clown had said before, so he picked up the test paper and looked at it carefully. For some questions, the red pen was not put down to correct, but stayed there. I took out a pair of answers and found that the original answers had changed. All the questions that can be corrected are correct. Is this something a human can do? Gentleman Rabbit fell silent. Here we go again. This happened again. Sotingu blinked her big eyes and asked, Mr. Invigilator, should my test paper pass? Did it pass? Can I take the next exam? Sotingu's eager and expectant eyes were like a normal student looking forward to getting a good result in her exam. But Rabbit knew that this was not a normal exam at all. And this player may be a little too calm. Gentleman Rabbit adjusted his emotions, and then said, Yes, you passed, you can take the next exam. All the answers are correct and all the tasks are completed. Although the completion process and results are somewhat different from what was expected, the reference answer is right in front of you and there is no room for doubt. This is the rule. Wow, that's great, Sotingu clapped her hands excitedly. Then, as if she thought of something, her smile faded and she asked again, Mr. Invigilator, isn't there another exam tonight? The exam time is what is the subject? This should be easy to disclose. This does not involve violating the rules. As an invigilator, Mr. Rabbit is also obliged to answer candidates' questions other than test questions. Tonight's exam is art, and the time is from 8 to 10 p.m. I hope you can still have such good luck. In the last sentence, Gentleman Rabbit's tone was a little strange. Sotingu thinks, it's just like during the New Year and the holidays, when a bunch of aunts and sisters gather together. They may not have much contact with each other, but now, they all exchange greetings and talk to each other. Duplicity of official words. Well, probably, that's what it feels like. Mr. Invigilator, since I finished the exam in advance, I should be able to take a rest in advance, right? I'll continue to visit the campus, okay? Gentleman Rabbit, yes, as long as you don't leave the campus. Okay. I will never leave. The campus is my home, how could I leave? I just fell in love with it. In these words, Sotingu showed his true feelings. But will Gentleman Rabbit believe it? Therefore, Sotingu was immediately speechless. Is there something wrong with this player's brain? Is it possible that there are so many flaws in the brain that even parallel paradise cannot completely repair it? Haha, I hope so. Mr. Rabbit said this and disappeared. Sotingu looked at the place where Mr. Rabbit disappeared, feeling a little curious in his heart. After these invigilators disappear, where will they appear again? Are you still on campus? If we were on campus, we should be able to meet so many players, right? If you can't touch it, it may be true as Ziomu said. This round of dungeons has multiple spaces, and the proctor is in another space without players, always supervising the players who are candidates. Every move. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 955. As soon as Gentleman Rabbit returned to his office, other proctors came over to ask questions. That weird player passed the math test again. Gentleman Rabbit nodded helplessly, yes, this is her math test paper. This is the first time I have seen someone hand in the paper in advance. Not to mention, some candidates here have already submitted their papers in advance. Another invigilator also sounded surprised. Are there again? Then among the current batch of candidates, there are still some with good potential. However, this is probably the only candidate who can change all the reference answers. Nowadays, the invigilators have gradually lost interest in Sotingu's weirdness. Furthermore, with so many players, all kinds of things happen. How many candidates do you think will be eliminated after these two exams? Gentleman Rabbit estimated, maybe half of it is not there yet, but about 30% to 40%, it should be there. There was a hint of an unknown smile in the voice of an invigilator. When the dungeon started, there were some people who were not able to bear it. They were frightened to death and were not included in the number of candidates this time. This is only the first day. Some candidates have not fully adapted. The number of candidates eliminated in the next 2 days should be reduced. That's not necessarily true. Have you forgotten the 2 exams at night? That's right, those 2 games definitely have the highest elimination rate. We can just watch the show. A dining hall, first floor. Because of the weirdness in the canteen, players who don't have a question answering mission will basically not stay here. But at this time, in the corner, there were 2 figures sitting on the dining chairs in the dining hall, talking as if there was no one else around. Oh my god, I was scared to death just now. I almost died. A chubby fat man raised his hand and touched his still intact neck, with a look of relief on his face. The man sitting opposite him raised his eyes slightly. Fat man, can you still hold on? No problem. Brother Chin. The fat man just said a sigh of relief, but he wouldn't give up. There was some food on the dining table in front of the 2 of them, which they had stored in their inventory. The fat man grabbed a red fruit and took a bite. I don't know where the boss and the others are. It's been almost a day and I haven't met the boss or the boss. As he said that, the fat man comforted him again. However, with the strength of the boss and the boss, there will definitely not be any danger. Chin Chi finished his bread and took a drink from the fat man. He said in a calm voice, I'm not worried about them either. It's just you. There are still 2 days of dungeon time, so be more careful. The fat man smiled naively. Okay, after all, I am also an old player. Brothers, you are here. A crisp and delicate voice sounded, and not far away, a small figure jumped out. The person who came was a little boy, only a little over 1 meter tall. He looked about 8 or 9 years old. This was a child that Fatty met in the game. He was a new player. At that time, the little boy was hungry. Because he looked so pitiful, Fatty couldn't help himself and secretly gave him a piece of bread. Because Fatty was the first person who showed kindness to the boy when he came to the dungeon, so the boy always wanted to follow Fatty. The fat man asked curiously, have you finished your test paper? The boy replied, there are still a few questions. I think those questions are too difficult, so I can only pick some easy ones and skip the ones that are too difficult. The question I'm doing is answered here. As he spoke, the boy pointed to the floor of the dining hall. Because the requirement for passing the exam is just passing the exam, it does not require that all players must answer all the questions and answer them all correctly. Fatty, then come on, there's still half an hour, go hurry up. Yeah, I just happened to be passing by, so I'll leave first. See you in the evening, 2 brothers. The boy nodded. Okay, see you tonight. After the boy went up to the 2nd floor, he disappeared. Chin Chi slowly said. Fat man, all the humans on Blue Star, except maybe those children who can't think independently, even if they are paralyzed in bed or dying, have all been pulled into the dungeon. Among them, there are also many children. Can you taking care of one cannot take care of them all? The fat man was silent for a moment and said, I know. I just happened to see you. Don't worry, brother Chin. I'm sensible. That's good. Out of the standpoint of a friend, Chin Chi reminded him. As for the follow-up, if Fatty still insisted, there was nothing he could do. It's almost time to rest, let's continue looking for the big guys, Fatty said. On a trail somewhere on campus. Sutingyu stopped and turned to look at Lucifer on his shoulder. How are you doing? Did you feel it? Lucifer shook his head slightly, disappeared again. This school is too big. It has been gone for a long time. Hearing this, Sutingyu's face became sad. God knows, she has been running for how long, and her feet feel sore. but the fluctuations that seemed to be fragments of divine objects were coming and going, and would change positions, making it difficult to detect accurately. Sutingya glanced at the dungeon time. It was already 6:30 p.m. In 1.5 hours, the art exam will begin. Do you want to continue looking? Lucifer asked. Sutingya shook his head. It's almost time for the exam, so let's not look for it now. There are still 2 days left anyway. However, before that, you can take a look at the new home prepared for Big Grey and the others. Sutingya came to a dormitory area, looked left and right, and finally selected the largest and tallest dormitory building. How does this building feel? Sutingya looked at Lucifer and asked casually. Lucifer glanced at it and said, it's not bad anyway, he didn't live there. Sutingya put her little hand on the wall of the dormitory building and muttered, I wonder if I can fuse it in. Unable to parse, unable to parse, unable to parse. On the panel, this piece of content suddenly popped up. You mean, it can't be fused? Sutingya raised her head. The dormitory building in front of her was more than 10 stories high, and it felt like it was straight into the sky. Is it because it's too big? That's right, you have to eat the food one bite at a time. Then, try looking for a smaller one. One of the 8 high school students Sutingya called out asked, are there any relatively petite dormitories on campus? Think about it carefully, this is a matter of your future life. The male high school student racked his brains. It seems that there is one. The school specially created it for some special students to live in. The environment is very good and the equipment is high. Sutingya became interested. You lead the way. Okay, boss, after all, this is his own business, and the male high school student is also very enthusiastic and starts to lead the way. 20 minutes later. This is it, boss. Sutingya looked at the dormitory building in front of her. Indeed, from the appearance, it was much better than ordinary dormitories. Sutingya reached out and touched the wall of the apartment and muttered, this one is a little smaller, so it should be able to blend in, right? It has been detected that the prop angel stone has an opportunity to be upgraded. Please try to upgrade it. Okay, Sutingya's eyes were filled with joy. Sutingya let go and had no choice to fuse now. Go and see if there are any residents inside. Okay, boss. Just as the male high school student was about to drift away, he paused again, turned around and asked. Boss, if there are residents, do we have to abandon this place? The environment here is quite good and the accommodation is comfortable. If you really want to give up, the male high school student will be somewhat reluctant to give up. Sutingya glanced at it strangely. What are you thinking about? Wouldn't it be better if there are residents? Let them also become your neighbors. There will be more people and liveliness. What this means, is this devil going to harm other people? The male high school student was shocked in his heart and overjoyed on his face. Yes, 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 boss, you are right. We can't just let them suffer. It would be good to have more suffering brothers and sisters. With these feelings in mind, the male high school student floated inside. Sutingya waited for about 10 minutes before the male high school student appeared. Male high school student, boss, there are people in there. About 1/3 of the dormitories are occupied by people. Not bad, so there should be dozens of people, right? Sutingya raised the corner of his mouth slightly, expressing satisfaction. This building can be regarded as a boys' dormitory. The boss is wise. Sutingya, find another dormitory for girls. Boss, they are all here, pick whichever one you like. The male high school student pointed into the distance. So, under the enthusiastic guidance of the male high school student, Sutingya looked left and right, and then selected another building as a dormitory for girls. There don't seem to be any players around here. Sutingya's eyes turned slightly, and an idea came to his mind. Sutingya walked into the dormitory building that she valued. In 2 days, the exam takes up a lot of time. Taking advantage of the fact that I still have some free time, I can first persuade the residents in the apartment to immigrate across time and space. As for how to persuade, Sutinyu had two options. First, it is verbal persuasion. Second, it is persuasion through action. The kind and simple little fairy naturally hopes to just take the first method. In this way, everyone is happy. But some things are often unsatisfactory. After friendly exchanges failed again and again, Sutinyu sadly used the second method. The little fairy doesn't want to either. But the little fairy really has no choice. It was they who made the little fairy choose the second method. In the end, Sutinyu successfully reached a consensus with the original residents of the two dormitory buildings. Copy time, 1950. All player panels popped up, announcing the information about the third exam. At this time, the sky on the campus was already dark, and the buildings and street lights on the campus were emitting white lights. But beneath the light, there is still an unknown darkness shrouding it. Sutinyu followed the information on the panel and came to the classroom where she was taking the exam. This time the examination room is a bit special. It is no longer a uniform classroom with desks. There are many painting equipment in it, and the venue is more open than ordinary classrooms. 10 minutes later, the invigilator arrived as scheduled. This time, it was an invigilator whose head was a jack-o'-lantern. The pumpkin had triangular eyes and a gear mouth, emitting a bright yellow light, which was a bit strange and mysterious. Dear candidates, good evening. I believe you have all been waiting for a long time. And tonight we'll start your third exam. The scope of this exam is art. As soon as the pumpkin man opened his mouth, he felt a sense of excitement. The cold air came from him, and his voice was very low, as if his throat had been burned out. The purpose of this exam is to test your artistry and aesthetics, and this time, there will be a group of enthusiastic people who devote themselves to art to help you take the exam. Friendly reminder, during the exam, you must pay more attention to the preferences of the enthusiastic people. This will help you pass the exam, and those who cannot pass the exam. For some reason, when the pumpkin man said the sentence, he always felt that the fixed smile like a gear is full of malice. This smile gave most players a shuddering feeling in their hearts. Master Invigilator, what is our topic this time? Is it to draw something? The pumpkin man nodded, yes, you have to draw something. As long as what you draw satisfies the enthusiastic people, you will be considered to have passed the exam. And the exam time is from 8 to 10 p.m. I hope you all can have a good exam memory. Okay, now the exam begins. This time, the invigilator did not disappear directly like the previous two times, but raised his hands and patted each other. As the applause rang out, the originally closed classroom door suddenly opened, and there was a sound of rustling movement outside the door. Just as the player was curious, the candidate closest to the door suddenly screamed in horror. Corpse, corpse, skeleton. Ah! What are these things? It's so scary. What the hell is this? Sutinyu's eyes flashed. I saw that the things that came in from the door turned out to be skeletons, and those skeletons had some rotten meat with a sour smell attached to them. They obviously had no signs of life, but they looked like normal people. Walk. The skeletons that came in were just right, matching the total number of candidates in the classroom. Just when the players were panicking, the pumpkin man kindly explained, "This is your enthusiastic crowd tonight, and this is also your test question tonight." What the hell? What exam did you take? This is not going to make us look at these skeleton monsters and draw. This is too scary. Will this thing attack us? Pumpkin Man seems to be very interested in the fear expressed by the player, and deliberately does not explain it clearly directly. After the players calmed down a bit, the Pumpkin Man opened his mouth to explain. The content of your exam this time is, painted skin. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 956. What? What kind of painting? How do you paint the skin? Give them these paintings. It literally means painted skin, Pumpkin Man explained in a brisk tone. Look, how miserable these enthusiastic people are. Their bones are exposed, and even their skin is gone. I believe that all candidates should also sympathize with them. Therefore, this exam is to draw pictures for them. If you come out with a skin that satisfies them, you will be deemed to have passed this exam. You only need to adjust the skin color you have determined on the drawing paper, and then stick the drawn drawing paper on the enthusiastic people, and you can help them change their skins. My God, this is really a painted skin. This, how to draw this? As for how to draw it, it's up to the candidates to use their imagination. Okay, now the exam can begin. Candidates, please work hard. After the Pumpkin Man finished speaking, he disappeared. Many players looked at the skeletons in front of them, looked at each other, and felt uneasy in their hearts. Suddenly, the skeletons moved and walked towards the players' easels one by one. Then, they stood there motionless, seeming to signal the players to start painting their skins. This, can you not draw this? One female player looked at the extremely ugly skeleton in front of her and almost cried out loud. Try it. Do you want to disappear like those people before? The players comforted each other, but they were also comforting themselves. At least, the proctor didn't let them fight with these skeletons, right? But looking at these skeletons, they just stood there, as if they were asking them to draw, and did not take any other actions. The players gradually became more settled. Sutinyu picked up a paintbrush and drew seriously on the edge of the skeleton shelf. Then, Sutinyu began to mix the paint. While mixing it, he asked about the customer's preferences as if he were a normal customer. Brother, what color skin do you like? Red, yellow, green, blue, or black? As he said that, Sutinyu expressed his opinion again. I think the colorful black is pretty good. What do you think? But no matter how much Sutinyu said, the skeleton in front of him showed no reaction at all, as if he didn't care at all. Sutinyu gradually frowned. No, didn't Pumpkin Man say he wanted to understand the preferences of these enthusiastic people? If you can't communicate this, how can you understand it? Is it possible that players should try it bit by bit? Sutinyu thought for a while and used paint to mix two colors. One was a color that was indistinguishable from the skin of a living person, and the other was as colorful as a rainbow. Anyway, if you adjust it a little more, you can choose. Sutinyu started drawing on the paper with great interest. At this time, other players also took action. At the same time, players in other examination rooms also received the same examination content. Even though I was extremely unwilling, I still had to bite the bullet and take this nonsensical exam. The vast majority of players may not have even touched a paintbrush many times in the real world, let alone drawing in front of a skeleton frame. How can they possibly draw so well? However, it is said that it is painted skin, and players also thought of looking at the skin on their bodies while starting to smear on the drawing paper. After more than half an hour, some players had almost finished the painting, so they boldly took the painted paper and carefully pasted it on the skeleton. Single Player King is one of them. Standalone King saw a trace of wonder in his eyes when he saw that the drawing paper pasted on it really turned into skin automatically, as the invigilator said. There is actually such drawing paper. After pasting one piece, the other parts were still empty, so the Standalone King picked up other drawing papers and pasted them one by one. I've posted it? I should be able to pass the exam, right? The Standalone King looked at the work in front of him and suddenly felt complacent. Unexpectedly, I also have the talent to be a painter. It seems that this exam is not difficult. Just when the Standalone King was feeling proud, he didn't notice at all that a trace of red light suddenly flashed through the black eye sockets of a skeleton that was motionless like a dead thing. The arms that were hanging down were raised forward a little stiffly. The layer of skin attached to the skeleton suddenly began to spontaneously ignite without fire. For a moment, the appearance of fire attracted the player's attention. The standalone king was also shocked and involuntarily took 2 steps back to avoid being burned by the fire. But he couldn't help but make a sound of doubt. What is going on? Why did it suddenly burn? The player was a little confused. The invigilator never mentioned this situation at all. Other players in the same classroom also noticed this situation. The other players who had just thought about pasting the drawing paper on the skeleton saw the scene and put down their hands hesitantly. Ah! In the light of the fire, the skeleton seemed to come to life again. With a stretched out hand, the straight skeleton directly stabbed the standalone king in front of him. For a moment, blood flew everywhere, and a look of astonishment flashed across the standalone king's face, but it was quickly covered up by pain. Save me quickly, the single-player king wailed, wanting other players to save him. Holy crap, why is skeleton going crazy? But now, other players are confused about the situation and can only choose to stay away from him and all the skeletons. The skeleton that stabbed the standalone king through the head moved again, and this time, it gave birth to another hand. The hand bone was like a sharp knife tip, slowly sliding down from the standalone king's head. Peel off the player's skin bit by bit. The standalone king's screams became louder and louder, and after a while, a bloody man whose whole body was covered in blood but had no skin fell to the ground. But the missing layer of skin was covered with blood on the skeleton. Immediately afterwards, the skeleton leaned down, opened its fangs, and ate the bloody man on the ground with big mouthfuls, and then swallowed it bit by bit. Finally, he wiped his mouth very deliberately, and finally walked out of the classroom. And this situation was repeated one after another in different examination rooms and classrooms. It's not that no players reacted immediately and wanted to save themselves, but these skeletons themselves showed even more terrifying strength. Even among veteran players, many have become prey to skeletons. No. I don't want to take the exam anymore, I don't want to take the exam anymore. Many other players in the same examination room could no longer hold on after seeing this bloody scene. Those players who tried to escape from the examination room, but before they could leave the classroom completely, the originally peaceful skeletons suddenly went berserk and started killing each other. Do you like this? Is this good? If you don't say anything, I'll just assume you like it. You can't go back on it. Sutinyu muttered something without any trace of panic. This made other players in the same examination room feel as if they were not taking the same test. Sutinyu glanced at his masterpiece with satisfaction, then put down the brush, picked up the painted skin, and began to apply skin to the skeleton in front of him. A female player next to her couldn't help but said, "Aren't you afraid that this thing will eat you?" "I'm afraid," Sutinyu nodded. Female player, "Well, then you look scared at least. Who would believe someone so calm?" Sutinyu posted them one by one. The head is green. The arms are red. The legs are blue. The front chest is black. The back of the back is yellow. The players who were in the same examination room and classroom as Sutinyu silently moved away from Sutinyu in an instant. But 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The players did not see Sutinyu's skeleton go berserk. How is this going? Could it be that her skeleton is broken? But from a perspective invisible to all players, the skeleton in front of Sutinyu was surrounded by more than a dozen fluttering black shadows. Among them, there is a black shadow with a sharp mouth and fangs, covered in gray fur, and with a big tail. At this moment, he was threatening with his mouth open. Don't move. To be a model, you have to look like a model. If you dare to move, we will eat you. Dewey communicated in a very friendly manner. Skeleton, not impressed, not at all. After Sutinyu attached all the colorful skin he had painted, he admired his masterpiece with great satisfaction. Not bad, really nice. I am indeed a genius. Sutingyu felt complacent unconsciously. The other players in the same examination room and classroom became a little suspicious. Is it possible that these skeletons won't attack people? Some players couldn't help themselves and gave it a try. As a result, the skeleton suddenly went berserk. Typical try and die. Damn it! Why can't they? Why is she the only skeleton so obedient and quiet? The skeleton of this female player cannot be fake. That's right, it must be fake. Wyo, they also want such good luck. Sutingyu, who was secretly poked and envious, encountered another problem at this time. That is, how can the skeleton express that it is satisfied with this new skin? Otherwise, Sutingyu would not be able to pass the exam. Sutingyu suddenly became embarrassed. This skeleton doesn't know how to speak. Adhering to the idea of there is strength in numbers, Sutingyu humbly asked Big Gray and the others for advice. How can I make them respond? I am very satisfied with this skin. Dewey immediately started to make suggestions. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to speak human words. If you don't let it roar, take it as a very satisfied attitude, or just nod. The skeleton in front of Sutingyu, it thinks it's normal that it can't speak human language, and it doesn't need to learn to speak human language either. But now, it has no skull rights at all. I also think this method is very good. However, you can ask the invigilator first, just in case he cheats and says it won't count. Yes, you can't just let him speak human language. What if it is too stupid and never learns to speak human language? That's right. Sutingyu listened to the suggestions of his younger brothers and felt enlightened. Yes, what you said is right. But what Sutingyu didn't notice was that they were still invisible in the conference. Therefore, in the eyes of other players, Sutingyu was talking to the air, or speaking seriously to the skeleton. This scene is as weird as it gets. Although the skeleton is difficult to deal with, it is not impossible for players to deal with it. At the same time, in different examination rooms and classrooms. He's so awesome. Who is he? In an examination room, players were whispering, looking at a man not far away with envy or admiration. Qin-Chi placed an ancient bronze sword on the easel, and on the drawing paper, he just dabbed 2 strokes at random and pasted it directly on the skeleton in front of him. But the skeleton in front of him showed no intention of moving. Skeleton, don't dare to move at all. In the eyes of other players, it felt very magical. They wanted to ask Qin-Chi how he did it, but when they saw Qin-Chi's cold expression, they didn't dare to mention it even though they had many excuses. Some people had the courage to stick drawing paper on them too. At this time, he discovered that his skeleton was not going berserk either. Mine is fine too. Ha ha ha. I can do mine too. Soon, the players in the entire examination room and classroom noticed that the originally agitated skeletons were as quiet as chickens. Although they didn't know what happened, inexplicably, the other players looked in Qin-Chi's direction. Could it be that he is here, that's why? In the second examination room classroom, the fat man huddled in the corner, holding stacks of drawing papers in his hands. The skin drawn on the drawing paper is lifelike, just like the skin of a living person. In terms of skin texture, there are old and young, male and female. From the skin color, there are black, yellow, white and pink. In terms of skin style, there are cool male models, gentle boy models, sweet lowly models, and sexy lady models. These are all for you. You can change whichever skin you like at any time. Fatty kept selling sets of exquisite skins to the skeleton. Finally, the skeleton in front of him couldn't bear it any longer. However, he did not attack the fat man, but let out a howl, which seemed to be a little bit excited. Ho ho. The next second, the skeleton began to try on the skin. Fatty also thoughtfully took out a large mirror to show the skeleton the new skin. The third examination room classroom. Boom. A violent blow sounded. A skeleton was kneeling on the ground without dignity, holding its head in its hands. It was obviously faceless, but a sense of grievance emanated from its bones. In front of it, the man wearing sunglasses slowly took off his gloves that were stained with paint and put on new ones. When he turned his head and glanced at the skeleton, his expression was cold and disgusting. "Stay away from me, it's so ugly." Ho ho ho. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 957. Suting was so excited that he stood up from his seat and walked towards the podium in a few steps. Following the same method as during the day, she knocked on the podium a few times and called for the invigilator. Suting waited for a while, and the pumpkin man appeared. "What do you want from me?" The pumpkin man looked puzzled. A second ago, he was still drinking coffee comfortably in the lounge, chatting about life and gossip with his colleagues. Being called over suddenly and having to work overtime for no reason would put anyone in a bad mood. Due to the restrictions of the rules, the pumpkin man had no choice but to adopt a business-like attitude and ask Suting. Suting said, "Dear Mr. Invigilator, I am just very confused about one aspect of this exam, so I would like to ask you for advice." "Oh? Tell me where you are," Pumpkin Man asked again. Suting showed a very unscrupulous smile. "What I want to ask is that the criterion for passing the exam is to satisfy the enthusiastic people. So, how should the enthusiastic people express their satisfaction to be considered satisfied? They don't know how to speak human language, or can we just let them nod?" Ah! Pumpkin Man was really confused by the question. No way, right? Is there really any candidate who would be so stupid as to think that he can get the satisfaction of a skeleton? Isn't this a humming scam? Pumpkin Man, who knew the inside story, complained silently in his heart. However, he didn't show it at all on his face, but coughed twice. In fact, his brain was running rapidly, thinking of what to say. Well, wait a moment. The standard for judging the satisfaction of skeletons involves all candidates' examinations, not just the examination rooms and classrooms he is responsible for. Therefore, he alone cannot fully decide. As soon as he finished speaking, the Pumpkin Man disappeared from the spot. However, Suting was not in a hurry because she knew that Pumpkin Man must have gone to discuss with other invigilators. And Suting just had to wait. After a few minutes, the invigilators from all the examination rooms and classrooms appeared again. At the same time, one thing was also announced, that is, the criteria for judging the satisfaction of skeletons. Dear candidates, in view of the fact that there are some obstacles in communication between our enthusiastic people and you, the criterion for judging the skin satisfaction of the enthusiastic people is that he will not suddenly become angry or angry, and can accept it quietly. If he can last for 5 minutes, then you will pass this exam. As soon as Suting learned about the judging criteria of the exam, he looked at his skeleton. As for the skeleton that De Hui and the others had been educating, when they noticed Suting's gaze, they very wisely began to remain motionless. After a full 5 minutes, Suting can pass the exam. So, Suting fell in love with Pumpkin Man again. "I passed the exam, can I go?" The Pumpkin Man glanced at Suting in surprise. No wonder she suddenly came to ask about the judging criteria for the exam. It turned out that the skeleton had been taken care of early in the morning. The Pumpkin Man said with a fair and impartial attitude, "Where is your skeleton? I need to see it." Suting pointed out, "It's right there, how about it? Does it look good?" There was a hint of pride in his tone. But when the Pumpkin Man saw the skeleton, the corners of his mouth twitched uncontrollably. This, what are these? Colorful. Colorful. It's like a child's random doodles. That's it? What aesthetics? But a certain culprit is still selling melons to Huangpo and boasting, isn't it beautiful? Is it unique? Is it a different style? Haha, are you sure your enthusiastic crowd will like this? Pumpkin Man became a little doubtful. However, Sotingu's skeleton did not start to go berserk, but its breath seemed to shrink a little, as if it had numbly accepted this cruel fact. Sotingu patted her chest and promised, of course, sure. My enthusiastic fans like this new skin very much. You see, he was so moved that he couldn't even speak. Won't leave. Pumpkin Man. Skeleton. This ability to tell lies with open eyes is really. Although there are 10,000 people in the Pumpkin Man who don't believe it, the standard of judgment is what he himself said. Now, the skeleton showed no signs of anger or rage, so Sotingu had indeed passed the exam. This was within the rules, and the Pumpkin Man couldn't refute it. He nodded, of course it's okay. You passed the exam. However, after you finish the exam, you can't go near the exam room or classroom at will. In addition, the school has a curfew. At 2300 hours, you must return to the dormitory to rest. Sotingu nodded, I understand, I will write it down. See, oh. Now that he was about to leave, Sotingu suddenly felt reluctant to part with his skeleton. However, there was nothing he could do. Everyone in the world was having a banquet. Sotingu could only hold back the grief in his heart and bid farewell to the skeleton with reluctant eyes. Then, he turned around and left this sad place resolutely. After Sotingu left, Pumpkin Man was about to recycle the skeleton. He saw the colors again and suddenly felt a little heartbroken again. On the other side, Sotingu came out. 1 second, he seemed to be immersed in grief, and the next second, he strolled away happily. The exams weren't over yet, and the curfew was set very early. Sotingu began to think about it. What can you do to pass the time? Sotingu raised his head and looked at the sky. The sky was completely dark at this time. If there was no light, it would be impossible to see anything clearly. Sotingu suddenly had an idea, how about going to try the integrated dormitory now? We are still taking exams now. Even if the invigilators are watching, they are still watching the exam. Soon, Sotingu made up his mind. Sotingu took out his hat, used his invisibility ability, and then went to one of the dormitories in the dark. Because Sotingu had already greeted the residents in the building in advance, he didn't have any worries now. Sotingu took out the angel stone tablet and pressed the surface of the stone tablet tightly against the wall of the dormitory building. It has been detected that the prop angel stone has an opportunity to be upgraded. Please try to upgrade it. Sotingu thought silently, yes. Start merging. Integration successful. Congratulations to the player Angel Su, the prop angel stone has been successfully upgraded. The integration this time was much easier and simpler than the last time at Angel Apartment. Sotingu guessed that maybe it was the first time and the second time that it was familiar. Therefore, the angel stone tablet might have some hidden attributes, right? Sotingu checked the information on the angel stone tablet that had been successfully fused. Props, angel stone tablet. Grade, rare. Function, a seemingly ordinary small stone monument. Who would have thought that it is a mobile complex apartment building, not yet integrated, 23 hours 59 minutes and 50 seconds. Durability, 100%. Remarks, with a stone tablet in hand, thousands of troops will come to summon you. Not bad, not bad. Sotingu was very satisfied. Because there is still time for the angel stone tablet to digest, the other dormitory building will not be integrated tonight. Leave it until tomorrow night. Sotingu called out all the younger brothers. Because there are a lot of new guys here all of a sudden, some rules and regulations need to be explained clearly first. First point, your leader is De Hui. If you can be better than him, you can also run for the position of leader. Originally, De Hui was a little complacent after hearing the previous words, but suddenly he felt a sense of crisis. And De Hui also noticed some unfriendly glances. De Hui snorted with disdain in his heart. He actually wants to covet the position of my king's chief younger brother. Dream on. Second point, the manager inside the angel steel is Wen Ruojun. Within the steel, you must obey his management. The third point is that you must live in harmony with each other. If there are any conflicts, resolve them head on. You are not allowed to compete in private, let alone hurt the harmony. The fourth point is, don't fight and kill casually. We are civilized and qualified Apiao. Do you understand? The first 3 points can be understood by new residents, but what about the fourth point? What does it mean not to hit and kill casually? Is this what Sutingyu can say? Damn it, you still have the nerve to say such things. But no matter what, the new residents did not dare to show any resentment, and they all nodded obediently. After Sutingyu said briefly, he took all the residents into the stone monument. De Hui and the others have all got new rooms, and naturally they need time to choose between them. After finishing this matter, Sutingyu left the area. As time goes by bit, tonight's exam is finally over. The players who passed the exam can more or less breathe a sigh of relief. Tonight's art exam is really a bit abnormal. Dragging physical and mental fatigue, the players returned to their dormitories. Sutingyu was the first to return to his dormitory. But after waiting for a long time, only 4 people came back. Including herself, there are only 5. As for why the others didn't come back, the answer is self-evident. The cat girl who had a good chat with Sutingyu didn't come back either. That's right, as a new player or a girl, it would be really difficult to deal with the rampage of a skeleton. Sutingyu was a little regretful. It seemed that one of his investments had been wasted. When the curfew time came, Sutingyu went to bed. This night passed so calmly. That's weird. After the exam, the proctors discovered that something seemed to be missing in a campus scene. After investigation, it was found that a dormitory building had disappeared. What exactly is going on? You are responsible for this campus scene. Didn't you notice anything unusual? An invigilator looked at Mr. Rabbit with a hint of dissatisfaction in his tone. How could a good dormitory building disappear all of a sudden? The proctor mobilized surveillance to conduct an in-depth investigation, but found that they could find nothing. What a coincidence, the area where the missing dormitory building is located is outside today's exam. Therefore, the proctor does not have full authority over that area. The clown man said angrily, "Damn it! Don't let me catch you as a player. Is this done by players? Or is there a bug in the copy itself? I remember that a copy seemed to have disappeared before, but I couldn't find out the reason." While the invigilators were working hard, a certain culprit was already sleeping comfortably on the bed. Copy the next day. Copy time, 6:30. The alarm clock set by Sutingyu woke her up. After Sutingyu got up, he simply washed his face, then took out the food and started eating. When the time was almost up, the panel automatically popped up, displaying the new exam information. The exam is about to begin the next day. Sutingyu walked out of her dormitory, but as she walked, she noticed something was wrong. Sutingyu stopped and turned to look to the right. Here, it is obviously an open space, with at most 1 or 2 green trees. But now, a 4-story building has appeared out of thin air. Sutingyu continued to walk forward. Gradually, she discovered that the layout of the entire campus had changed a lot, and it was no longer the same campus she came into contact with yesterday. Sutingyu frowned. It's a bit troublesome. The campus has changed. Is the dormitory building that I was originally optimistic about no longer there? After a day of adaptation yesterday, the players who had already had a rough understanding of the campus environment felt like they were back before liberation overnight. Not only Sutingyu, but other players also gradually discovered this problem. Sutingyu followed the information displayed on the panel and arrived at the new examination room, waiting for the invigilator to arrive. The exam this morning was a foreign language exam, which made Sutingyu a little curious. If we follow the real-world terms, then the foreign language test for Chinese people is English. But on the other hand, the foreign language test for other foreigners is in another language. I wonder what the content of this foreign language test will be like. Could it be related to the changes on campus? Players entered the examination room and classroom one after another. When it was almost time for the exam, the invigilator slowly appeared. Sutingyu, the invigilator in the examination room, had a white ball on his head, and a big black question mark on his face. Compared to the other invigilators yesterday, this invigilator was a bit shorter, probably only about 1.6 meters tall. Not only that, she was still wearing a pink skirt. This is a female invigilator. As soon as the invigilator spoke, he said in a cute Lolita voice, "Hello, dear candidates, I am your invigilator for this exam, please take care of me." Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-K. Chapter 958. The test you are going to take today is a foreign language test. The test time is from 8 to 12 o'clock in the morning. Please work hard to pass. A player asked, how to take a foreign language exam. The lowly girl tilted her head. I think, after yesterday's exam, you already know that there are many friends living on campus, and they are the subjects of your exam. The lowly girl realized that she had said enough, and then announced the start of the exam. Okay, dear candidates, please pick up your test papers and start the exam. I wish you all the best. After saying that, she made a small heartfelt gesture and then disappeared. Topic 1, in the piano room number 401 of the art building, the player playing the piano in the piano room, the owner of the half comb in his hand is. Topic 2, the little girl is wandering in the small garden behind the south swimming pool she wants to find. Question 3, what is the security guard crying about in the security booth at the east gate of the school? At first glance, these questions appear to be ordinary question and answer questions. But these ordinary questions are placed on a foreign language exam, and the subjects of the questions are special groups in this campus. It has to make people think about it. Previously, Sutingyu had met some people called APIO who couldn't speak human language. Often, at this time, it was extremely difficult for her to communicate without any barriers. Is it possible that this is where the difficulty of foreign language exams lies? Sutingyu was a little surprised. If it was really what she thought, then Sutingyu wasn't worried at all. Because, although she didn't understand APIO's language, Sutingyu still had a bunch of subordinates under his command. When the time came, would Da Hui be among them? Can one of them just do the translation? Sutingyu picked up her test paper and walked out of the examination room. According to the content on the test paper, Sutingyu went to look for the protagonists in the questions. Sure enough, the cultural level of those protagonists was a bit low, and they couldn't even speak human language. Moreover, even if they couldn't speak, they refused to admit it, and even attacked Sutingyu in anger. There was no other way, Sutingyu could only temporarily teach these APIO how to be polite. Then, Big Gray and the others asked the answers to the questions. The process was very smooth and easy. Sutingyu is now equivalent to having a plug-in, but it cannot be judged as cheating, because, in a strict sense, Da Hui and the others are Sutingyu's ability. Since it is an ability, it cannot be called cheating. The difficult problem in the foreign language exam was easily solved by Sutingyu. What Sutingyu cares about most now is not the exam, but that she needs to find a new dormitory building. After all, if you have agreed to integrate the two dormitories, you must keep your word and not give up halfway. It's just an exam during the day. Sutingyu could only find a suitable dormitory first, and wait until night before merging. However, changes have taken place inside the campus. Even the new batch of juniors that Sutingyu accepted yesterday are not familiar with the situation anymore and cannot give advice to Sutingyu. There was no other way, Sutingyu had no choice but to recruit some new younger brothers in person. Sutingyu had just accepted an Apiao from the piano room as his younger brother, and then began to inquire about the layout of the campus and which places were suitable for dormitory buildings. After the new boy was educated, he answered Sutingyu honestly. After getting the answer he wanted, Sutingyu continued with his exam. First, seize the time to answer the questions and submit the papers in advance, and then go to the new dormitory building to inspect it. At the same time, several players who were rushing towards the piano room, when they glanced at the questions on the test paper again, they were surprised to find that the questions had completely changed. The destination in the question is no longer the piano room. What exactly is going on? Strange, changed suddenly. But these players have tried so hard and never thought of the change in the question, just because the protagonist in the question has disappeared. Therefore, this question cannot be answered further. The culprit of all this was not aware of it at all, and continued to answer questions happily while recruiting new boys. Soon, this phenomenon gradually spread among many players. Many players' questions changed for no reason, which was very confusing for the players. However, if 30 questions are placed in front of a large number of players, even if all are changed, only some players will be affected. The remaining players still answered the questions normally. Therefore, the controversy about the title change has only spread among some players. Copy time, 10:40. Sutingyu returned to the examination room and handed the test paper she had completed to the invigilator. Not surprisingly, Sutingyu successfully passed the foreign language exam. In the remaining time, Sutingyu went to inspect several dormitory buildings and finally decided on one. Following his previous approach, Sutingyu persuaded the residents living in the dormitory in a very friendly manner. Then, you can wait for tonight to start merging again. Copy time, 12 o'clock. After the exam, it was time for lunch, and Sutingyu continued to sell his food to new players. Sutingyu first used a communicator to contact the nearest members of the gang and asked them to help her spread the word. Soon, many new players came over and signed contracts with Sutingyu in exchange for food. When it was almost lunch break, Sutingyu reluctantly ended the sale and returned to the dormitory to rest. However, the location of the dormitory changed again at noon today. When Sutingyu arrived at the door of the dormitory, he found that someone had already come over in advance. Sutingyu looked around. They were all unfamiliar players. When they met each other, they just nodded lightly and let each other go about their own business. Seeing such a reaction, Sutingyu guessed that this was not the reaction that a new player should have, but rather an experienced player. By the lunch break, there were 10 players in the dormitory, including Sutingyu. They don't know each other, so they don't have much communication. After resting in the dormitory for more than half an hour, the afternoon exam was about to begin again. The exam in the afternoon is a physical education exam. As Sutingyu rushed to the new examination room and classroom, she was curious in her heart about what the exam content would be like this time. As usual, Sutingyu was waiting for the invigilator to arrive in the examination room. When the exam time came, the invigilator arrived as scheduled. This time it was a sturdy male invigilator. His head was a square iron box. There was a scratch on the lower right corner of the front of the box, like a scar on a person's face. When the invigilator came, he did not go around in circles and began to explain the content of the exam. After taking so many cultural exams, this time I'm going to test your physical ability and play a simple and easy hide-and-seek game. Hearing this, The players became concerned. Simple and easy. After so many exams, even new players will not naively believe such nonsense. All the candidates are the ones being arrested. The other enthusiastic people on campus, who you have also contacted this morning, are the ones who are arresting you. All candidates will have a basic score of 100 points at the beginning of the exam. If the candidate is caught, he must answer a question within 15 seconds and answer it correctly, otherwise 5 points will be deducted. If the candidate is caught if you answer a question correctly, you can get 2 extra points. Regardless of whether the answers to the questions are correct or not, candidates can continue to run away, but those who answer correctly will have a 10-minute safety period. Within these 10 minutes, enthusiastic people will not find you, but candidates who answer incorrectly will. There is only a 20-second safety period, and if you are caught by the same enthusiastic crowd again, you will have to answer a question again. The exam time is from 2 to 6 p.m. After the exam, candidates with a score below 60 will be eliminated. If they score 60 and above, they can continue to take subsequent exams. Do you understand everything? After saying this, all the players looked uncomfortable. Sutingyu raised his hand. The invigilator saw this and asked, "This candidate, do you have any doubts?" Sutingyu put down her little hand and said, "Mr. Invigilator, I would like to ask, what does it mean to be caught? When you are seen, even if you are caught, you still have to come into contact to be considered caught. You have to be touched to be considered caught." Upon hearing that it was the second type, the players quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it's not the first type. If it were the first type, even if you only saw it at a glance, even if you were caught, the difficulty would be greatly increased. There are already a lot of players in this campus, and those enthusiastic people are also pervasive. Then, it would be extremely difficult to find a secret place to hide, and it would take 4 hours to hide. Sutingyu raised her hand again. "I have another question, Mr. Invigilator. If my score is lower than 60 points during the exam time, can I still continue the exam? After answering the correct questions, my score will be then added back again, and when the exam is over, the score will be higher than 60. You shouldn't be eliminated, right?" The invigilator nodded. "Yes, as long as the exam time is not over, no matter how many points you get, you will not be eliminated immediately." After hearing this, Sutingyu already had some thoughts in mind. If this is the case, it can increase the fault tolerance rate a lot. Do you have any questions? Well, now the exam begins. I wish all the candidates good luck. After the invigilator finished explaining the content of the exam in a routine formula, he left the exam room. The next second, all player panels popped up, displaying a countdown. Preparation time for hiding, 1959. Once you see it, you will understand. This is the time given for players to find hiding spots, only 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, enthusiastic people throughout the campus will start to capture the players. Time is running out, and all players set off to find reliable hiding spots. Sutingyu is no exception. However, Sutingyu was not too impatient. Because, her invisibility hat and transformation gem alone are enough to allow her to spend most of her time safely. Of course, the 4-hour exam is a bit long. The hat and gems together are not that long-lasting and cannot be used all the time. It will take 4 hours. But if discovered, Sutingyu would have the means to escape. At this time, all the players in the entire campus were hurriedly looking for hiding spots. Some players even fought with each other over the hiding spots they liked. In the end, the winning party can occupy the hiding spot. 20 minutes seems like a lot of time, but in the blink of an eye, it's almost over. The hiding spot Sutingyu chose was the dormitory building she had chosen this morning. Moreover, the residents in the dormitory building have already deeply realized that Sutingyu is their own ghost. Sutinyu felt that it would be safer and more secure to hide here. However, in order to prevent accidents from happening, Sutinyu first moved all the original residents of the entire dormitory building into the stone monument. Then, the original residents of Dehui and Angel apartment were sent to guard every exit of the dormitory building, while he hid inside, sitting comfortably on the sofa, drinking drinks and eating fruit with Lucifer. After 20 minutes, the noise in the entire campus disappeared without a trace. The enthusiastic people hiding in the dark also started their search. In less than a minute, players were discovered one after another, and some players were even more unlucky and hid directly in the lair of some enthusiastic people and were discovered on the spot. Then, they began to answer the questions, and those who answered incorrectly would only have points deducted. But after being caught, the questions players need to answer are extremely bizarre. In a men's room, a male player looked at the problem displayed on the panel with a depressed look, and above him, 2 male players were lying eagerly. Just now, the male player was accidentally knocked down by 2 Apiao. Because he was contacted, according to the rules of the exam, the male player must answer a question. Question: in the dormitory where you live now, what is posted on the bathroom door? The male player wanted to curse. The dormitory had just been changed at noon today, and he only stayed there for 30 or 40 minutes, spending most of the time resting. As for the toilet, he only went to it once and didn't pay attention to anything posted on the toilet door. The 15-second countdown has begun, and the male player is thinking anxiously. What is attached to it? Put a hook on the toilet door? Put up a small poster? In the last 3 seconds, the male player said his answer, hook. This is the most common thing stuck on the toilet door. This has the highest probability. There's nothing wrong with that. The male player prayed in his heart. The panel begins to determine whether the answer is correct. 2 seconds later, the panel refreshes. Wrong answer. Correct answer: nothing posted.